ставши на коліно, своє полкове знамено, дивлюсь на нього я востаннє, у нез'ясованій журбі, всю кров мою, всі скитання, воно вібрало у собі. Всю кров
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались з кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячий хотар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів. Робить примар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить. Хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар? Байрактар. Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ. Тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар. Байрактар. Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer. I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, everybody. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 204 of the news.
And of course, we're going to be reporting on the past 24 hours of the war in Ukraine here on day 204. And of course, this is the end of a very new week in this war, and tomorrow will be the beginning of the next. Now, I would like to address a couple of things before we start out on the news tonight. Last night, on stream, we passed 100,000 subscribers, which was a massive landmark for this channel. And of course, it is incredibly cool to know that we have been around reporting this news for 203 days at that point, and that 100,000 people have found this channel to be a reliable and interesting news source worthy of watching and worthy of subscribing to. So a massive kudos and thanks to every single one of our subscribers for making that possible. The second thing, I promised a face reveal, and I've seen a lot of people thinking that that's going to happen on stream, and I made sure to clarify this last night. We won't be doing a face reveal on stream. It's going to be a standalone video on the channel where it's just me and Matthew in front of a camera. We're still trying to figure out exactly how we're going to make that work, but rest assured, that will probably be a special video released on Monday. That's what we're thinking right now. So just hang tight, everyone. The face reveal will be coming around the corner. It's just that, honestly, we went from 93,000 subscribers to 100,000 so quickly, we didn't really expect to have to get ready this soon. I actually thought it would be about a month or two away, and then it was only 2 weeks away. So now we've got to try... Go ahead.
In another word, folks, we didn't prepare for this.
Pretty much, we did not prepare for this. We didn't expect for the channel to blow up again that quickly, and so now we have to go and actually do the legwork behind the scenes to be able to do a face reveal. Now, I already know this, regardless of what we're doing. Y'all know the Enforcer, like, I guess you could say logo, the World War I soldier with the gas mask and the helmet. I will be wearing that uniform without the gas mask and the helmet on. So, you know, take that for what you will. That's at least part of what will be in the face reveal, because that's pretty much my identity at this point, is the Enforcer itself. So better not veer away from that too much. So with that in mind, now having covered all of this and also seeing that a lot of people are getting on here to hear me talk about a face reveal, we're now going to be moving on into tonight's news. And we actually have a couple of shocking bits. I know that the title talks about Russia hitting a major dam, but just before the stream, after I gotten all of that pre-stream prep work done before on the title and thumbnail, we got news that President Zelensky's car was hit in Kyiv today. Real quick, I'm going to throw y'all over here to this. This is a post on Twitter. This has been reposted by loads of people across the internet and also the Ukrainian government as well. Apparently, also, one second, let me whip out my phone because Operator Starsky is actually watching our stream right now. He's gotten up incredibly early, and he just told me on WhatsApp that he'll be watching the stream. And so if you are watching right now, Operator Starsky, how are you doing? I hope you're doing really good. And also another thing is that he said, according to Operator Starsky, this is what we know. And of course, he is in Kyiv, so I feel like if anyone wouldn't know the story, it would be him, considering it happened there. The president is okay. Some dude crashed into his car, as well as the escorting cars, and got a bit injured. He was given first aid, and no one else was harmed. And so, it looks like it's kind of a little questionable. And once again, we're going to have to wait for the Ukrainian government to conduct some investigations into this, but it's kind of odd that someone would drive into the president's convoy, hit a screening car, and then also hit the president's transport as well. I'm not sure if it was a car or a limo. I'm not really sure about that. But it's still very odd to hear about that. And so we will be waiting on more news to see if the driver deliberately did that as an attempt to try and attack Zelensky, or if it was truly an accident. I hope it was more so of an accident. Also, I see everyone wishing Operator Starsky the best of wishes. And have you seen him in the live chat, Matthew?
Yes, there he is right now. He said, hey, watching the stream till I fall asleep. It's 5 a.m. here. Dang, it's early.
Yeah, it's early for Starsky. That's why also it's sometimes difficult for him to make it to these streams, and of course I get it 100%. It is early in the morning over there. I rarely get up at 5 a.m., although I sleep very little. I usually sleep very little, and it's usually like 8 in the morning by the time I get up. But anyways, moving on from that, it's good to hear that President Zelensky is A-okay after what for a second was a very jarring and very concerning attack on what appears to be an attack on him. With that, we've also gotten some additional news that I'll have to pull up on stream, that Putin was also attacked today in his convoy. Putin motorcade
That's
attack.
not so bad.
That's not so bad. Actually, I'm wishing the guy who drove through the convoy the best. So, real quick, because of course... Now, I will have to say this, though. All of the news articles I've seen reporting on this are all, I guess you could say, considered in Britain as tabloids, like the Express and the Daily Mail. So I don't know if this is entirely true or not, but let's just take a look and see what it says.
Oh,
No.
of course they value your privacy.
No,
Oh, boy.
they don't value our privacy. Let's see. Putin's limousine is hit by a loud bang and possible attack, but Russian leader is left unharmed. Unfortunate. Anyways, that's pretty much... He has ordered gymnast lover to have an... Oh, this is a tabloid. I mean, like, I don't know about that. That's some pretty questionable stuff to put in a news article. But anyways, if that did happen to his convoy, good. I hope that it happens more often. But anyways, with that, we're now going to be moving out of Kyiv, and we're going to be moving into Russia. Now, I, of course, once again, because Operator Starsky is watching, I have to give him huge credit because he actually shared this clip with me today, so that way I could show it to y'all on stream. Now, there's been rumors, of course, from a lot of people, and this is not far out of the Soviet Union and the Russian Federation's history, is that they've been using prisoners as soldiers in the current war. And... by and large, we've never gotten video or picture evidence to confirm that until today, but today a video came out made officially by the Russian government showing them taking prisoners and putting them into the military. Here's the video.
Наверное, слышали, ЧВК «Вагнер» называется. Война тяжелая. На всякие там чеченские и так далее близко не похоже. Расход боеприпасов у меня приблизительно в 2,5 раза больше, чем в Сталинграде. Первый грех — это дезертирство.
Well, you see the commander giving a little bit of a speech to these prisoners, and, you know, I've just never really been one to get behind the whole idea of a prisoner unit of soldiers. I don't know about y'all, but it seems kind of sketch. I would be scared to be an officer in charge of this unit, because imagine this. Imagine you have 2 gold teeth, and you go to sleep being in charge of this prisoner battalion. You're going to wake up and 2 gold teeth are going to be missing out of your mouth. I would be very scared about having thieves and criminals on the front lines just due to the implications that can happen. These people will probably end up raping people, murdering them, stealing stuff. They are literally the dredge of society in Russia, or at least that's what we're assuming, although a decent amount of these people may be political dissidents and are just thrown into the prison system because they oppose the current government. That's also the case as well, but I would be highly skeptical about having an entire prisoner battalion. It just does not seem a logical thing to me, but I could be wrong.
Никто не отступает, никто не сдается в плен. Когда вы будете обучаться, при сдаче в плен вам расскажут 2 гранаты, которые вы должны иметь с собой. Второй грех — это алкоголь, наркотики. В зоне боевых действий. Пока полгода вы с нами, вы все время в зоне боевых действий. И третий грех — это мародерка, включая сексуальные контакты с местными женщинами, флорой, фауной, мужчинами, там, с кем угодно.
While the speech continues, I just saw Operator Starsky throw in a pretty good joke about Putin's car exploding. He said,
Yes, I saw that too.
He said it was an explosive device that exploded under Putin's car. It was caused because he learned that the enforcer gained 100,000 subs and his rear end blew off. That's a pretty good one.
Смотрим, насколько крепок. Физическая форма крайне необходима. Смотрим, насколько ты крепок.
We can hear the speech continue.
Решение и берем.
And you know what this makes me think about, Matthew? This thing makes me think about the movie Enemy at the Gates. If you've ever seen it,
I actually haven't.
It's a. You know what's interesting, y'all? Like to our viewers, is that Matthew and me, while being brothers and being raised in the same house, we've usually done different things our whole life, which is kind of weird because if you ask Matthew about a movie, he may know about it, but I may not know about it, and vice versa. So sadly, he's never watched Enemy at the Gates, but it was a very good movie. To explain this real quick and then draw the comparison. It was a very good movie made in 2001. Not exactly the most historically accurate, but it was about a Soviet sniper, a real sniper called Vasily Zaitsev, who would go on to kill around 300 Germans during the Battle of Stalingrad and also subsequent battles. And it was a very good movie, at least in its storytelling aspect. Historical accuracy, there were some things that were wrong, but still, at the beginning of the movie, they send a penal battalion charging. You can actually see a picture of that scene, and of course this is fair use. We're using it for commentary purposes. You can see these soldiers in this penal battalion, because they're political distance, being pushed forward into German machine gun fire, and then turning around and running back. And then, of course, they run, well, you don't know that, but they run into an NKVD screening unit, which then kills all of the, I guess you could say, retreating soldiers. This is what that feels like. Although, of course, they're probably not going to get killed by an NKVD screening force. It is still crazy to see that the Russians will seriously do warped and insane things, like taking prisoners and putting them into a military unit, and think that that's just okay.
Заключенные, которые воевали со мной, это было 1 июня, штурм Угледарской ТЭЦ, 40 человек из Питера, строгий режим, рецидив. 40 человек зашло в окопы противника, вырезали его ножами. Было 3 погибших, 7 раненых. С 3 погибших одному было 52 года, отсижена 30-ка. Погиб геройски. Мы внимательно относимся к тем, кто сидит по 228, исключительно исходя из того, была зависимость или нет.
And so we're going to cut off this speech because, of course, the rest of it is just this guy monologuing his entire life story to a group of uninterested prisoners who are going to look at the first moment that they can commit a crime. And so with that, that's the end of that little video. And once again, an interesting look into the glorious state of the Russian Federation and what they're doing to win this war, or, as they call it these days, the heroic defense. And so with that, we're now going to be moving out of Russia and down to our location unknowns. We actually have a couple of them, and they're pretty interesting. Starting off, when you see the SOF destroying a heavy machine gun, when you see the crosshairs looking straight at the heavy machine gun, we can now see a ATGM fired at the machine gun. The camera then pans up across the field, and we can see way out there, boom, the ATGM hits the heavy machine gun, knocking it out. A nice, solid hit for a nice, solid Ukrainian operation. And also a nice, solid counter to the special military operation. It looks like the Ukrainians are doing a special scorching operation on Russian positions. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into the next bit of Location Unknown news, where we can then see a lucky strike at it again. And when I say lucky strike, I mean a lucky strike. This video we're about to watch is of a Ukrainian unit advancing in a field in an unknown location. However, one thing that we can see is that a Russian Ka-52 starts to fly in to try and take out some of the vehicles. One of the BMP-2s that the Ukrainians are operating was lucky enough to shoot the Ka-52 where it matters and take the thing down. So here's the video. We can see this BMP-2 sitting by. We can also see the pixels, like the 2 or 3 pixels right there that makes up the Ka-52. When you see the BMP-2 fire, we see the Ka-52 going lower and lower below the tree line. And then now it's disappeared out of sight. We can also see another Ka-52 up there in the left side of the screen. Now see the BMP-2's gun elevating around for a second. Also, that was a pretty, for some reason that just looked funny right there. You can see the driver get back down into his hatch, and then you just see the hatch move over him and close. It's like, oh, the things are getting spicy out here. The hatch just closes. Now see the BMP-2 scanning the tree line again. Looking for any Ka-52s to come its way. But with that, that's the end of the video. And once again, a pretty interesting sight to see a BMP-2 fire at a Ka-52 effectively enough that they then veered off and didn't even fire off unguided rockets or any kind of guided missiles for that matter either. We saw them do nothing, and apparently that must be because what we were assuming is that the BMP shell either flew close enough to the Ka-52 that it was seen by the pilots, there are 2 pilots in the Ka-52, or it hit the Ka-52, maybe damaged some kind of systems on it, where the 2 helicopters called off the, I guess you could say, the strafing run that they were probably going to be committing on this unit, and then turned off and went away. So pretty interesting to see, and huge credit to the accuracy of this BMP-2 crew to be able to pull off something like that. It's pretty amazing. And so with that, we are on to the next bit of news, where we can see a Russian Mystic crew in operation during the quote-unquote glorious defense of the Russian people. Have to show clips every once in a while from the Russians because you gotta note one thing. They use a lot of copyrighted music. And secondly, look at this garbage Mista B. This thing is covered in rust. The whole entire barrel is like this reddish orange that you get from a nice film of rust. And you can even see that the paint's gone in a good amount of places. Just in random spots that don't even have any friction with other pieces that would peel the paint off. And it's just missing. And it shows you how backwards, how, I guess you could say, I don't know, poorly equipped, how poor the Russians are, I guess you could say. Yeah, hell, I mean, like, even look at that breach. 1 second, let's go back. Look at that breach. The whole thing is filled with rust. It's just nasty. We now see them loading the Mista again, elevating it again, and actually, come to think of it, we have seen this Mista before. I've seen that that Z, in the exact same spot, painted the exact same way before. So it looks like the same Mista B that we may have seen a couple of days ago. But with that, that's the end of the video, and we're now going to be moving on into our next bit of news, where we see Ukrainian Strela 10 surface-to-air missile system in operation. In case y'all don't know what a Strela 10 is, just to let y'all see a really good look at a Strela 10, here is a Strela 10. These are, I guess you could say, intermediate to short-range surface-to-air missile batteries. And also pretty interesting, they're built on top of an MTLB, and they use, of course, Strela surface-to-air missiles. Now, these things, as far as I know, they do... Yeah, I mean, like, they do okay. They're not going to be the most exceptional surface-to-air missile system on the field, especially nowadays, but they do their job in a way, I guess you could say. And so, here's the video. Also, that's music. Oh. We now see the Strela firing. And jeez, that was fast. Look at that, man. When it launches, it goes up a little bit, and then it just levels off its flight in literally a millisecond. Gosh.
Wow. That was very fast.
That was pretty fast. And so with that, that's the end of the video. And once again, a really interesting look at a Ukrainian Strela in operation. We didn't get to see if it shot anything down, but still a pretty good look at a vehicle we haven't seen the Ukrainians use a lot in this war. And so with that, we're now moving on to our last bit of Location Unknown news before we go roaming on Twitter again for a second, where we can see a Russian ammunition depot exploding due to Ukrainian fire. According to the caption here, this is due to the help of a Luleka 100, which is a Ukrainian UAV. Also, they're playing music, but we can see the ammunition depot here at the bottom of the screen. And while we wait for it to explode, I want to explain something real quick that some of y'all may notice. Tonight, I'm not fluctuating my voice, and I'm not as loud and hyper as I am normally, and that's because my voice almost got shot last night to the point it was almost unusable all day today, and so I'm trying to give it a break. I'm trying to stay as hyped as I can, you know, under the circumstances, but I'm also trying to give it a break so that way I don't lose my voice, and then I can't, you know, run news or streams or anything. But we can see that.
But he does have water tonight, folks. He does have water.
I do have water. I have 3 whole bottles of water down here, which is, I guess, you know, like a half gallon maybe, or a quarter gallon. And so I will have enough water. So with that, that's the end of the video, and it's nice to see that the Ukrainians are even knocking out these smaller ammunition depots across the front lines. Now, with that, we're going to do something unprecedented. Usually I find this before stream, but today I was thinking I have not shown a casualty report for a while. So we're going to pull up the Kyiv Independent on Twitter, and we're going to go and check out their casualty report. This is usually the one I go with, because, of course, you got to pick one and stick with it, because it could vary from source to source. But they get their numbers from the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, and then just put them into a nice infographic. So let's go all the way back. Here we go. All right, so here are the losses for September 14th. 53,650 troops, another 350 Russian soldiers killed, another 5 tanks destroyed, another 3 armored personnel carriers, 11 artillery pieces, no new MLRSs, 2 anti-aircraft warfare systems, 2 planes, 2 helicopters, 4 drones, 3 special equipment vehicles, 32 supply trucks, and 0 cruise missiles. And so a pretty substantial number, but I think the number that should be emphasized the most today is this number here at the vehicles and fuel tanks. Now, over the course of this war, y'all may have noticed that I started to focus a little bit less on logistics and more on the actual combat and fighting of the war, and that's because the logistical situation has largely remained the same throughout the war. Once it started, the Russians, of course, were taking large losses, and there was no way they could supply the bulk of their forces that were in Ukraine off of the supply vehicles they had available. And that situation has not changed. However, there is a huge thing that you have to note at this point, and it's an elephant in this room. The Russians only had 4,000 supply trucks going into this war for their logistical units. Of course, they may have some other trucks in their actual combat units, because you have to transport troops, which requires trucks anyways. But in terms of actually getting supplies to the soldiers, there were only 4,000 available trucks. The Ukrainians have destroyed almost... Let me do the math on that real quick. I want to actually get you all the percentage on how many of Russia's supply vehicles that they started off the war with have been destroyed at this point. So 3,500 divided by 4,000... 87% of Russia's logistical force has been destroyed at this point and has either had to have been replaced or it has completely disappeared. And that may also be a reason why we see the Russians getting steamrolled heavily, is that they can't support the units that are in these areas, and so they're pretty much left to their own devices. And an actual combat unit without any supplies is not really in a good situation to use its own devices. It doesn't have any. Now, give me just a second. Man, water is great. It really helps out a lot.
Wait, were you drinking water, Enforcer?
Yes, I was. This is. I'm having to make. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm having to make sure that I nurse my voice tonight, or else it's going to be in a lot of trouble tomorrow. But it's still crazy to think that 87.5% of Russia's supply force has been knocked out. Think about that. Really put a decent amount of thought into that. That means that Russia's supply lines and logistical structure is mostly comprised of, at this point, civilian commandeered vehicles that the Russians are using. That could be any kind of vehicle. I'm not even going to try and name them because it's a limitless list. But that's not good. That's not good. And here's why. The normal military truck can carry a decent amount of cargo. The vehicles that the Russians are probably having to replace these destroyed Russian supply trucks with are most likely some kind of a smaller vehicle that can carry less tonnage. And so therefore, to carry the same amount of supplies, you need more vehicles. And because you need more vehicles, you need more drivers, which ties up more soldiers in the Russian military than before to just try and keep the front line stable. And so with that in mind, you could see why I'm heavily harping on this number, because this number at the very bottom right, the most understated number of this war, is the largest determining factor into how much the Russians can do going on into the future, and it's not going to be a lot. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from the casualty report and on into the next segment of news, which will actually be the entirety of the Kharkiv area and also Donetsk as well. But before we get to those bits of news, we're going to take a quick pause to address a couple of polls and also 3 questions from the chat. Those good old traditional 3 questions. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, folks, and moving into our first question segment of the night, we have only 2 polls to address at the moment. And the first one said, did you hear that President Zelensky was involved in a car crash today? And first off, as the Enforcer mentioned, he is okay. That's most important. And it looks like 75% said no and 25% said yes. So surprisingly, not many of you had heard that had happened. So, Enforcer, what are your thoughts on that poll?
I actually think that that is something interesting. Is that no one really talked about Zelensky's convoy being hit by a car today, although that is big news. I also, honestly, was taken by surprise when I heard the news a little bit earlier. It actually came from a viewer that DM'd me on Discord, and I was like, what? And so I had to go looking into it, and lo and behold, someone did hit President Zelensky's car. So before I had gotten the tip from a viewer about that happening, I would have fallen within the majority of everyone right now that I too didn't know that that happened. And I've got to say, whoever is keeping that news a little bit on the down low, that's a good thing, because people don't really read most of the time. They don't really read into something a lot. So if that got out onto the headlines and people were talking about President Zelensky was attacked today, most people would assume he's in hospital in critical condition and nearly dead, and that would send a whole bunch of people into panic. So honestly, while it did happen, it's a good thing that it hasn't got out into, I guess you could say, major news, or else people all over would be like, oh, Ukraine is lost, although it's still winning and Zelensky is perfectly fine. Also, by the way, just remember how everyone believed Nelson Mandela was dead long before he died. And just remember that when I'm talking about this, that could very well happen, even with Zelensky, with how much he's been in the public sphere. But with that, we are on to the next poll, and I hope I addressed that one fairly well.
All right, and moving on to our second poll, this one said, what do you think about a unit of prisoner soldiers? It looks like 81% said bad idea, terrible things can occur, and 19% said it's a good use of resources. Now, for me, I think it's a terrible idea, at least for a country that we like to use prisoners in a war, because they're going to turn on you. Also, they're going to do terrible things to the population. But if it were Russia using these prisoners, that might actually turn out to be a pretty good thing. But Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
I honestly have to say that regardless of the situation, it's not good to send in prisoners into a war. That's just asking for the worst things imaginable to happen, and also it's a unit that you'll always have to be scared of doing something like a mutiny, considering that these people are criminals. And I know that some, and of course there's modern views on, I guess you could say, the criminal justice system and prisons in general here in the West, that a lot of these people are not, I guess you could say, criminals, like they're not bad people. But I can tell you this, Alabama, having the highest population of incarcerated people, I believe, in America, and then America having the highest incarcerated population in the world, you get a lot of stories of how prisons are here in Alabama and the kind of people that are in them. And I've got to tell you, usually the people who go into prison are usually pretty tough. I mean, they're like in gangs and stuff, such things like that. And if you aren't and you go into prison, usually you end up becoming a member of a gang. It's a really sketchy thing, and I would never trust a prisoner, especially even in Alabama, because it's, it doesn't make them any better to be in Alabama or anything. But I would not trust a single prisoner anywhere, especially in a military situation where you give them a weapon and then they're posed against an enemy force or civilians in between the two that are unarmed. That's just asking for the worst things to happen. And so with that, I hope that addresses the poll fairly well, and I hope you'll see where I'm coming from, because I know that there are a decent amount of opinions. You don't even have to be, I guess you could say, political in one direction or another to have completely opposite opinions, just depending on who you are. But I would not trust prisoners to be on the front lines in any situation from any country whatsoever. And so I hope I addressed that poll fairly well, and we are now on to the questions, I believe.
All right, and yes, we are. We're on to our first super chat, and this one is from Sylvester the Cat, who puts in a $51 donation and says, hello, Matt and Enforcer, and hello to you, Sylvester the Cat. He says, are the Ukrainian forces around the northern sector and Kharkiv stopping to fortify and consolidate to launch another push from there, or are they settling in for a protracted defense? I'm a Leaf Spring tanker.
Well, I thank you so much for the support, and also, Leaf Spring tanker? Sylvester, I think you've told us to that before, but I would love to know I would love to know, Sylvester, what tank were you a tanker for? Because, of course, it seems like the logical explanation would be an M1 Abrams of a kind, but I'm wondering, would you have been one of the people fortunate enough to drive, to be a tanker for an M60? That would be something really interesting to me. And also, just in case, because I know some people are about to be like, M60 is a machine gun. The M60 MBT is also a main battle tank that the United States had, because the United States loves to reuse M1. Not M1. They love to reuse, I guess you could say, the numbering for everything. And you can see here in M60, there's multiple different kinds, but just to give you all an idea of how confusing M1 or anything in the U.S. military can be, M1 carbine. This is an M1. This is also an M1. This is also an M1. I think y'all are starting to get the idea, hopefully. And this is also an M1. There are a million M1s that have been in U.S. service, and a lot of the M1s were in service at the same time in World War II. So there was no idea. If someone told you, hey, go grab an M1, there is no idea at the time of what that M1 would be. Was it a flamethrower? Was it a carbine? Was it a rifle? You wouldn't have an idea until you actually went and asked someone, hey, I was told to get an M1, and then they'd roll out, who knows, they could give you anything. So with that, I hope that addresses the, at least that part of the chat fairly well. And also, on to the first part, the actual question about the Ukrainians. Due to operational security issues, I can't really get into what the Ukrainians are most likely doing, but I will tell you that they have reached the Oskil River, which is a perfect geographical defensive location. Once again, keep in mind they are on the Oskil River Reservoir in most of the area, so once again, much like the area around Stary Salty with the Seversky Donets River Reservoir, they are now having a decent area that divides them and the Russians, so that way they don't have to worry about the Russians trying to create a breakthrough. Geographically, it cannot happen. So, going off of that, I still can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but it's an incredible defensive position. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and thank you so much once again, Sylvester the Cat, for being around forever. I think you've been around for as far back as I can remember doing these videos, and I've got to thank you so much once again for the incredible support and helping this channel to keep on rolling. If it wasn't for viewers like you, this channel wouldn't have been able to keep running for so long. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again.
And yes, big thanks to you, Sylvester the Cat, for the support. And moving on to our next super chat, we have a $50 donation from Sweaty Chungus, who says, congratulations on 100,000 subs. My kids are watching tonight and wanted a shout out. Could you get them in bed? For OPSEC reasons, their names are Cookies, Newtons, Teents, Midge, and Neats.
Well, I want to, of course, Sweaty Shungus, I will never turn down a request, and that's really cool to hear that your kids want a shout out on our channel. And it's something interesting enough. I was at college the other day, and I've kind of gotten a group of friends now in one of my classes, you know, because you just do that naturally. And so I was talking to them, and then one of them turned around to someone, and they said, "Hey, this guy's a famous YouTuber," and they were like, famous? He can't be that famous. How many subscribers do you have? And I turned around and said, like 100,000-ish, I guess. And then their faces were like, oh. And so I was like, that's weird, because I never thought about it until that point. But I've been doing this the whole time, and people covet things on YouTube like subscriber count and all that. You know, it's cool to me. It's cool to reach the 100,000 subscriber milestone, but that's not really what I got on YouTube to do. And it was really weird to see that people just covet that, regardless of what you're doing on YouTube. It just puts you like on a pedestal or something. But with that, I hope it's for them enjoying the stream and not for that reason. But anyways, I will give them all a shout out. So Matthew, could you name off their OPSEC names real quick?
Yes, we have Cookies, Newtons, Teents, Midge, and Neats.
And so to all four of y'all, because I want to try and remember those, but for some reason, I know that one of them is about to throw me off massively, and I'm going to get the other two wrong. But I do thank you so much for enjoying this channel, of course, as well, Sweaty Chungus, for your support, and also just just thank you so much. Also, apparently Sweaty Chungus, from what I understand, wants me to tell y'all to go to bed. If that's correct.
I think so.
So I hope y'all have enjoyed the shout out, but go to bed and help Sweaty Chungus out. Also, if Sweaty Chungus is your dad, tell him he has a really cool account name. I like it, and also he's got the big Chungus thing as his profile picture. It's a pretty steady good joke, and I enjoy seeing whenever he throws in a chat or a super chat because it's just so cool. But anyways, with that, I hope you all have enjoyed the shout out. Thank you so much once again, Sweaty Chungus, for the support, and I hope that addressed the comment fairly well. And so with that, we are on to the last question of this segment, and then we'll be moving on into our next bit of news.
All right, and up next, we have a $50 super chat from DC Williams, who says, Operator Starsky, I'd like to come over October 15th and eat at Kyiv as per your invitation back in February. And I'm sure Operator Starsky is still in the live stream, so he probably heard that. So I'm sure he'll respond to you in the chat as well.
And Operator Starsky, if you would like to take that one and answer it, be my guest. But on behalf of Operator Starsky, I thank you so much for the support to this channel, DC Williams. You've helped us to keep this thing running again, and so thank you so much. And also, I feel like Starsky would be more than happy to eat some was it lunch? Let me check that again. Eat at Kyiv. It's not lunch or dinner, it's just eat. So, honestly, I've got to be honest with y'all. I like eating out for lunch, not really dinner. It's something that, I don't know, it's kind of a weird preference. You know, I just enjoy eating when you can get done and there's still things to do and you don't walk out of the restaurant and it's pitch black at night and you're pretty much done with the night anyways. So that, you know, anyways, I'm not going to go into the whole reasoning of why I like that better, but I do thank you so much for the support, DC Williams, and I think he would most likely take you up on that offer.
And guess what? He said October 15th. Sounds great. I'd love that. So there you go, DC Williams.
Hey, by the way, speaking about Kyiv, I don't think we ever checked out restaurants to eat at in Kyiv last time we went through Ukraine and looked at the towns and cities.
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did. Let's drop down on Street View real quick and see what a normal street in Kyiv looks like. We got some construction going on here or something. But we can see that, let's see, this was taken in July 2001, and someone had gone along the plywood and spray painted Ukrainian flags on it, and also like glory to the heroes and things like that. Really interesting. But let's take a look at the cobble streets. I'm a huge fan of cobble streets. I love those. And also, wow, that's actually nice, isn't it, Matthew?
That is pretty nice. Where is this, in the middle of Kyiv?
Yeah, this is in the middle of Kyiv. Golly. Okay, gotta say, Kyiv is pretty surprising right here. It looks pretty good, and I love
it. Does really?
Yeah, and I like the cobble streets. And one second, I want to go to St. Sophia's Cathedral. That's got to be an impressive sight to see. So, let's see. Boom. Wow, this is really nice. Vacation spot right here. I would go on vacation to this place. But anyways, forgetting the street, let's go look at some restaurants. So, we've got the Rockfellow 210. I've been known to Rockfellow. But it looks like they got some they got some pretty good looking food, actually. But what else do they got? It looks like a public hanging out place, kind of like a bar or a pub. They got a thick pizza.
Operator Starsky said, check out the Golden Gate location.
Golden Gate. That's interesting. I got a restaurant named after Golden Gate. Golden Gate in Kyiv. Let's see if that's the one. Golden Gate. Wow, what in the world is this thing?
That's strange.
That is strange looking. That's crazy. I hope this is the right one, but this is nuts. Is it a restaurant? Is it a historical location? I can't really. It looks like a historical location kind of, but gosh, wow, this thing looks insane. It's like, I don't even know how to explain the architecture of it. But dang, is it neat. That is really cool, actually. Also, someone said cobblestone destroys your shoes. Yeah, but I mean, like, you still got to admit, for the style of it, it looks good.
Hey, it destroys your car suspension too.
Yeah, it pretty much destroys everything.
We have one cobblestone street in downtown Birmingham, and every time you drive down it, it's just like an absolute menace on your car.
It really is, but Then again, if you have the pavers set out correctly, you know, and you actually maintain them, it shouldn't be that uneven, but still it will do a number on a car suspension regardless. But dang, that is a really cool place. He said check out Golden Gate, a reconstructed medieval city gate. That is really cool. That is actually pretty freaking cool, not gonna lie. And also, there's a restaurant right here. It looks like a Italian restaurant. It is. And they serve pizzas. Oh, that looks like a pizza that Mama would cook up, doesn't it, Matthew?
Yes, it does.
and they got, of course, a pepperoni, cheese, like some chicken nuggets or something like that. It kind of looks
Is
like...
that chicken nuggets or cheese curds or something?
I was kind of like in a cheese curd area, but then again, that sounds kind of un-Italian and more so American, but who knows? It may be. They also got potato wedges. Ah, the old potato wedge. You used to get those a lot in school here in America. But honestly, it looks pretty good. And so with that, we're not going to look at Kyiv any further, but DC Williams, he has taken you up on the offer. Go ahead and get yourself a plane ticket. You now have lunch or dinner with Operator Starsky at any time of day of your choosing. And so with that, I hope we've addressed that fairly well, DC Williams, and thank you so much once again for the support, and thank you so much for throwing in a little bit of a moment where we can take a look at Kyiv again. And so with that, now that I've gotten y'all all starving, make sure to go grab some snacks that do not taste at all like the food you saw on screen, but will at least satiate your hunger. And so with that, we're now going to be moving out of this question segment and into our next bit of news. Starting off in the northern Kharkiv area, where there's been nothing to report today. Of course, the area has been liberated, and by and large, it seems that it's starting to fall more and more quiet as time goes by. But the occasional video may still come out of this area showing things that have happened in days gone by. Moving on down to the front lines, however, that have moved all the way to the Oskul River itself, we have seen that a Russian tank was destroyed by Ukrainian forces today. When you see the cameraman laying low in the reeds. And blowing up a tank. They're now getting up and running away. And they're laughing. Why in the world, Mandy, why in the world does their laugh sound like they just pulled a practical prank on someone?
It does. I was about to say that. It sounds like they like knocked on somebody's door and then ran off.
Yeah, the ding-dong ditchers. Let's listen to that.
That's it.
Let's listen to this one more time. They just obliterated a Russian tank. Who knows if there was a crew inside of it or not? Most likely not. It was probably abandoned. But after they blow up a $3.5 million tank, they go running away, giggling like girls or pranksters on YouTube, like they just got away with a silly joke. And so with that, that's the end of the video. Once again, I love the Ukrainians' enthusiasm whenever they do anything. It always seems like they're always having a fun time with it. With that, we're now going to be moving further down the line, where we saw the Russians conducting a heroic retreat. And what better way to conduct a heroic retreat than to put the cows into a nap as well? Apparently, in their retreat, they decided to take out the cows so that way the Ukrainians could not, I guess you could keep them around for dairy or beef, whichever kind of cow this is. And you just see the cows littered amongst the solar panels at this farm.
Оце так виглядає русський мір. Так вони зробили.
It's just...
Well, that's messed up.
It's messed up. It's just that kind of stuff has no purpose behind it, rather than for a reprisal. Oh, you're gonna push us out of Ukraine? Well, we're gonna kill the cows so that way you have nothing to eat or no milk to drink. It's just low down. It's wrong. It shouldn't happen. The Germans did that in the First World War. The French would also do it as well. But when the French did it, because, you know, think about this. When the French did it, they were doing it to French cows. And so they were killing the cows, so that way the Germans wouldn't have a free food stock to work off of as they pushed forward. So in that way, it made sense. But when the Germans were being pushed out of France, they would then go and kill the cows behind the lines and then move back. So that way the French wouldn't have any kind of food supply to work off of, but at the same time, they're French cows. So it's kind of like a reprisal for the French trying to retake their ground. So the Russians are pretty much doing the same thing. There's really no way to explain it. It's just a messed up, stupid thing that the Russians have done again. And so with that, We're now going to be moving further down the line and past Kupiansk, where we saw that a Russian radar was captured. A Russian ST, and here goes the giant fax machine numbers, ST68U197H6. So let's pull that up and let's try and get a little bit of specific information about it. So, according to radartutorial.eu, because we always need tutorials on how to work our radar systems, this is a medium-range 3D air defense radar in former Warsaw Pact countries. It was designed for the detection of tracking of targets at low altitudes under conditions of active and passive interference with strong ground reflection and under difficult meteorological conditions. So pretty much it's made to pick up things at low altitude under any kinds of conditions. So pretty interesting, and it's good to know the Ukrainians got one. Look at that, and they look like they're having a fun time with it too. And also, it looks like this thing is in pretty dire straits even before it got flipped over. It looks like the rust was forming all over, the paint was chipping off. And so with that, that's the end of this little picture, and good to see that the Ukrainians are still capturing Russian equipment of all shapes and sizes. With that, we're now going to be moving out of the area of Kupiansk and this, I guess you could say, northeastern front line as a whole, as the action has died down here now that Ukrainian forces have reached the Oskil River, and both sides are starting to somewhat solidify, most likely because the Ukrainians are making sure that the supply lines can catch up to their forces, which have moved over unbelievable tracts of ground over the past week. We're now going to be moving down to Izium to check out a couple of videos from olden times. The first bit we saw was Ukrainians moving into Izium and running the Russians off by simply firing off their guns into the air. I can't play the audio, but we can see the Ukrainians here in their Humvees advancing into the town and now firing off their guns into the distance, so that way the Russians know they're here and to get the hell out. When you see that he continues to fire off his gun. And apparently this works. Apparently Russians just run away after a little bit of gunfire. Honestly, not surprised. With that, that's the end of the video, and we're now going to be moving on into the second one. Now, everyone knows about the TOS thermobaric system, and a lot of people were pretty miffed, including myself, to see that a TOS-1 was being used in Ukraine, and not just one of them, but loads of them. Here's an example of one again. It's a shorter range. It only has a range of about 8 miles at maximum. Thermobaric multiple launch rocket system, or an MLRS, which sounds a lot better than what I just said. Anyways, we've seen these things a lot. We haven't seen a lot of them get destroyed, but apparently in Izium, a TOS thermobaric system got tossed. Here's the video. Also, I did steal that joke directly from the caption on Reddit because it was a pretty good one. And so, you can see the TOS turret sitting here with a TOS missile still intact. Nice. You don't see that often. We can see the turret ring right there and the T-72 hull further in the back in a more or less destroyed state, to prove that it was a TOS. With that, also, once again, observe the Z. That is the end of this video, and nice to see that in Izium, a TOS was destroyed, and also the Ukrainians got to have a pretty good look at one. They've seen a couple of them over the course of this war. Some of them have been destroyed, but it's good to see that one of these rare, yet incredibly devastating and almost inhuman weapons has once again been destroyed in the Izium area. With that, we once again have gotten no news. Sorry, everyone. I'm trying to think about where we're going, because usually I talk a lot faster than this and a lot higher pitched, and I've kind of gotten used to that tone and rhythm, and so now I'm kind of getting thrown off when I'm having to keep my voice a lot more demure and lower pitched. But south of Izium, we have not heard of any news today. It appears that the Ukrainian armed forces and the Russians have somewhat died down the fighting here, and that may be because the Ukrainians are preparing defenses, although we're not entirely sure. Moving out of the area past Liman and down towards the area of Verkno-Kamyansk and Seversk, we saw some low-flying Ukrainian helicopters, and I also misspelled that. It is not helicopters, it is helicopters. When you see Ukrainians standing right here on the road with a Ukrainian flag, of course, because you got to be patriotic. It's a great thing to be. We now see him holding up the flag for the helicopter pilots as they now come flying down the road right by this beautiful field of sunflowers, and pretty much right over their head. Also, I love how they painted up Ukrainian flags all over this MIH. Just look at that, man.
Yes. They are so good at painting their aircraft.
They really are. They have good camouflages. This one doesn't have those modern digital camouflages that are just killer good, but it's still a solid camouflage. And I love how they paint this thing up with Ukrainian flags all over it. Honestly, I would love to see an AH-64 Apache or a Black Hawk with American flags all over it. I don't know about you, Matthew, but that would be pretty neat to see if you know, we were to go into a war again, and to see something like this just covered in red, white, and blue.
That would be cool. For some reason, though, in my mind, it doesn't have the same effect as the Ukraine flag on the side of it.
That's true.
I don't know why.
And also, the Ukrainian flag is pretty distinct, unlike the United States flag, which, you know, and let me just compare this real quick, because Matthew does have a great point. U.S. flag, Star Spangled Banner, whatever you would like to call it, it's, oh my God, what is this abomination?
How many stars are on that flag?
Let's
like
see.
way too few.
3, 6, 9, 12. Oh, it's an early American flag. It's just that the union is so small and so off. I mean, like I think that's that's ugly. Anyways, we're going to move on to an actual modern 50-star flag. So give me just oh my God. Ooh. That's ugly.
Wait a minute, they want to redesign America's flag.
Yeah, I don't think we will want that redesign. That's
we'll pass.
That's just ugly. Anyways, to the actual American flag, it's visually complicated. It has 13 alternating stripes of red and white. I believe 7 red, 6 white. It then has 50 stars on the blue field. And while it is my country's flag, and I'm incredibly proud of our flag, I think it's a very, very nice one. It is really complicated looking, and so it doesn't show up as visually striking on a vehicle as, say, the Ukrainian flag, which is literally just 2 colors. You can see it right there. So let me click on that. That's probably the best. That versus that. It's much simpler. It's more, I guess you could say, unmistakable. And the U.S. flag is a little too visually complicated to just get that kind of like visceral reaction, like, oh, it's the Ukrainian flag. It'll take a couple of seconds for you to process the American flag. But still, I love the American flag. Anyways, with that, when you see the Mi-8s flying over, Ukrainian once again getting out there and waving around the flag as they fly on. And now they're flying over those beautiful fields of sunflowers. And that's the end of the video. Also, was the second one as marked up as the first? It was. They literally did the same paint job on both of them. Now everyone in the chat's arguing about which flag's the best. People are like, the British flag's the best. The American flag's the best.
That sounds like a poll coming up.
Yeah, it's probably a good poll coming up, honestly. But with that, that's the end of the video, and it's nice to see that Ukrainian helicopters are still operating in the area, and of course, inflicting a decent amount of damage on the Russians, hopefully, although we don't see that on film much. Moving on down to Orlivka, we also saw some more additional good news, as HIMARS strikes once again strike deep into the center of Orlivka, destroying Russian targets. Here's the video of those strikes occurring from a distance.
Охренеть. Это прилет. Это химо. Это вот этот хумар съел. Это прихода. Только куда оно все ложит, хуй пойми. Экспериментальный Короленко. Нихуя звуки. Это прилеты. Это прилеты. Химарсы.
And notice the precision of all these strikes, almost on the exact same area.
Подождите, а что это?
Экспериментальный Короленко, может.
Ребят, давайте нахуй зайдем. Мало ли куда оно сейчас или уедем. Вообще без звуков сразу прилет?
Да.
По-моему.
У меня, кстати, балалайка обновилась.
Ничего себе. Это трэш. Это просто пиздец.
So, with that, that's the end of the video. And once again, pretty nice to see a Ukrainian HIMARS strike slamming down into the middle of Orlivka and knocking out Russian targets once more. With that, we're now going to be moving out of the Donetsk area, as that is all the news that we have from this area today. It doesn't appear that massive action is occurring, and it appears that the front lines are largely stagnant in these areas, at least as far as video and picture evidence can prove to show. With that, we're now going to be moving into our final segment of news for the night, which will include the Southern Front, the Kherson area, Khryvyi Rih, which was the major news for the night. That's where the thumbnail and title comes from. Also, some news in a random area of Ukraine. We don't really know where it was, but I want it divided from the location unknowns. And finally, the address from President Zelensky, which will round out our news segment for the night. But before we get there, we're now going to move on to our second to last question segment, where we're going to address the polls that have been put up and also answer 3 questions from the chat. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, folks. So it looks like we only have one poll to go over in our second to last question segment. And this poll said, is there any correlation between both Putin and Zelensky being involved in an incident on the same day? It looks like 60% said there is likely no connection. 27% said somewhat, maybe, who knows, and 12% said yes, there must be a connection. Now, for me, I would say that there's probably not a connection, but you never know. It's kind of strange it happened on the same day. But Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
It is kind of strange that it happened on the same day, but at the same time, what country out there would benefit from trying to attack both the Russian president and also the Ukrainian president at the exact same time? I couldn't think of a country that would benefit from both of them suffering, and so I think that it may just be coincidence that it happened on the same day. So with that, I hope that addresses the poll fairly well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and that next poll has only been up for a short while, but we can go ahead and go over the results we have so far. The question was, American flag or Ukraine flag? It looks like 60% said, I prefer the American flag, and only 39% said, I prefer Ukrainian flag. Now, I think we might have a little bit of a biased audience because I think most people are American watching the stream, but just from a design standpoint, I must admit, I like the simplicity of the Ukrainian flag, but it's kind of like if you're in a state with a football team in it, that's kind of like the one that you have to go with. We have to love the American flag just as an American. But Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
And I gotta be honest with y'all, I love the American flag. Of course, it's the flag of my country. I'm always proud of everything that our country comes together and tries to do, and I'm proud of everyone in it. Because regardless of all the division in the modern day, everyone at the end of the day in the United States is trying to move the country forward in the way they think is best. And so I have to give massive credit to everyone in America, and also knowing a lot of normal Americans, which is of course almost everyone I know. They're all incredibly nice people, and they're all hardworking and try their best. And so, of course, I root 100% for the American flag, not just for its, I guess you could say, it's the standard of our nation. It pretty much represents us as a whole. I think it's just a nice looking flag. I mean, like, it is a nice looking flag. However, I will have to say that compared to most, it is complex, to say the least. If you were to count up the individual elements that make up a U.S. flag, you have 50 stars, you have 13 stripes, so you have 63, I guess you could say, visually separate items on this flag. And then you also have the Union, which is the 64th. So it's a decent amount of, I guess you could say, visual complexity to the flag, but that doesn't make it terrible. Now, there are great flags out there that do use a mixture of red, white, and blue. There is the flag of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which I'm sure someone's about to say, Northern Ireland's not part of Britain. Well, then why is it on the flag?
I like this one too. The Union Jack is very nice.
The Union Jack, I have to say, is one of my favorite flags because not only is it a combination of the flag of Northern Ireland, England, and Scotland into one, it is visually simple, and it's very distinct and recognizable. Anyone in the world can tell you that this is the British flag. Also, moving on to another flag that I like fairly well for its simplicity and also its use of red, white, and blue is the flag of France, which has to be the simplest flag in the world that uses this color combination, rather than the Dutch, which just flip the flag sideways pretty much. But still, the French use blue, white, and red, but it's still red, white, and blue. And I have to say that it is also a pretty good way, and very visually simple, to use that color combination to represent your nation. If you show
now Enforcer, it's funny because those color combinations right there kind of match a flag that we're not that big of a fan of.
Actually, it doesn't, because if you flip the
What?
French flag sideways, you actually get the Dutch flag, not the Russian flag. You'll see here. It's red, white, and blue, and you can see here.
That's like the post office flag.
Yeah, it is kind
It's
of.
like
Isn't
it looks just like the post office.
But the Dutch flag, rather than the blue field at the bottom being a slightly different shade, it's almost like you took the French flag and flipped it sideways, and you get the Dutch flag. The Russian flag, Russia, I'll show you all that real quick, uses a totally different combination of red, white, and blue. And of course, it uses red, white, and blue like the rest.
That's disgusting.
It is. It uses white, blue, and then red. And also another weird one to point out is Serbia. Serbia is a huge pro-Russian country in the Balkans, and also another odd thing about it is that it's the Russian flag flipped upside down with a crest put on it. Also, that looks like a Byzantine crest, but I don't know for certain. But still, there's a lot of countries out there that use the red, white, and blue combination. Honestly, of course, considering that we're pro-Ukrainian, not a big fan at all of Russia's flag, but I am a big fan of all the other flags that use red, white, and blue, including the Dutch. The Dutch actually used to use a different flag. This was their flag for an incredibly long while, and it always looked pretty neat draped off of the stern of a ship, because the Dutch used just massive flags back in the 16 and 1700s. Anyways, with that, we are now out of this poll, and I hope that addresses this one fairly well, because of course, if I had to pick in between Ukraine and the United States, I would actually have to pick the American flag, because that's where I'm from. And so with that, we are on to the first question, I think.
Yes, we are. And the first question we have from the super chats is from Kaltenberg, who puts in a very generous $100 donation and says, "Gentlemen, congratulations on 100,000 subscribers." And Kaltenberg, thank you so much for the big support. He puts in $100 for 100,000 subs. So thank you very much for that. And we are very excited to have reached 100,000. We're waiting to see if YouTube is going to send us that plaque.
And we are. We're seriously waiting to see if we are going to get a plaque. And also, by the way, Matthew, crazily enough, we have already gotten, just an hour and 12 minutes into the stream, 37,000 views. That's
crazy.
That's actually insane, because if y'all don't know, I do check out the analytics a decent amount to see if, what YouTube's doing. And it looks like they may be pushing our stream to more people, because while our live audience size is not as big as the past two nights, the amount of viewers we've had tonight has been unbelievable for just an hour and 12 minutes in. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see what's really going on there. But
and Enforcer, I've heard that once you reach 100,000 subs on YouTube, that it somehow triggers something in the algorithm to promote you more. But I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe somebody in the live chat can let us know.
That's what I've heard as well, but I don't really know. Because I've seen channels die at like 3 million subs. So I don't know if that's 100% true, but I feel like it would be, because it just makes sense. If you've gotten to this point, I guess YouTube would assume, well, you must be interesting or something for people to be watching you this far in. But anyways, moving on from that, I do thank you so much once again, Kaltenberg, for the massive support. You've been helping to keep this channel running like no other, and I've got to thank you so much once again for helping us to do that again tonight, and also congratulating us for 100,000. Imagine that, everyone. 100,000 people in the Lee Spring Army. If we pulled up militaries by size, and of course we're not a military, we're not saying that, but if you pulled up militaries by size, which is always how I'm thinking about the number, let's see if we can get them by, yeah, the Wikipedia doesn't list them in terms of overall size. Well, let's see, 10 countries, highest active duty personnel. We're looking for some of the smaller, dang it, they're not going to show it to us there. Oh, whatever. We're larger than a decent amount of militaries. So
Unfortunately, I think the point fell apart.
Yeah, I couldn't find the freaking figures, so we'll just forget about that. But thank you so much once again, Kaltenberg, for the support, and of course, thank you for being a member of the Old Guard. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And next up, we have a $100 super chat from BC Skyman. And thank you very much, BC, for that very generous support. He says, "Congratulations on 100,000 subscribers. Slava Ukraine. Let's go for 200,000.
Hey, BC's coming. I think I can actually top you on that one. How about we go for 250,000, which would be exactly $250,000. I think that would be cool. And I think that will be our new goal from here is 250,000 subscribers. And then once we reach that, we'll go for 500,000 and then 750,000 and then finally 1,000,000. I don't know how long that will take us. I don't know if it's a quicker road from here or not, but I am looking forward to trying to reach the 250,000 subscribers with the entirety of the Lee Spring Army. And, of course, I thank you so much once again, BC, for the massive amount of support and helping this channel to keep on rolling. You, Kaltenberg, William Allen, Will Riley, and a million others have helped this channel to keep on running through thick and thin, and I thank you so much for continuing to help us out. And so with that, we are on to the final question of this segment, and then we're moving into our last segment of news.
And also, folks, please remember that if you have a question, send it to me, because right now I only have, I think, 7 live chat questions in the spreadsheet. So if you send yours in right now, there's a pretty big chance that we can get to it before the stream ends tonight. But up next in our final super chat of the segment, we have a $50 donation from Spam Bucket 1, who says, I've been watching since Battle of Kyiv. My turn to provide some support. Have you seen any evidence of use of the Ukrainian MFG Sherp ATV in the war? It is the most unstoppable vehicle ever built. Slava Ukraine.
And what vehicle is that again, exactly?
He said the Sherp, which is like a sort of ATV type vehicle. I would be shocked, though, if they actually use those in war, because I don't think they're really armored or anything.
The Sherp? Oh, it's this weird thing. What in the world is this?
It's pretty cool, but I don't know if I'd have it for a war vehicle, though.
I don't think I would have this for a war vehicle, and it kind of reminds me of a DT-30. Right here. It looks like it's like a civilian version of Russia's DT-30, which is used as kind of like a Siberian tracked transport vehicle. And it kind of looks like that, but with wheels. That would be interesting to see if it could be used in a war, but it looks like something for extreme terrain. You know, terrain that a normal vehicle wouldn't cross, and in Ukraine, with massively flat fields, and maybe the worst obstacle that you could run into is the Rasputitsa, I think this thing would be pretty much out of season in terms of its usability for most parts of the year, save around a month or two in the spring and the fall. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, but still, I actually didn't know a lot about this vehicle. It is interesting to see someone bring it up. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support, and I hope we were able to address that question fairly well. And so with that, we are now going to be moving on into our final segment of news for the night before we move on to the last question segment. So moving on out to Donetsk and into the southern front, we have seen a decent amount of action here, mostly the Ukrainians committing passive attacks against the Russians to try and take out as many vehicles as possible. Here we can see the 44th Brigade using a drone to call in artillery fire, and of course they're playing copyrighted music, everyone's favorite pastime, and we can see some Russian vehicles there on the road. We can see the drone still looking down there, and it looks like the fire is becoming somewhat sizable, and we can see the remnants of an explosion up there in the sky. We now see what looks like the destroyed remnants of a Mista S. And that's the end of the video, and it's great to see that Ukrainian drone operators are still knocking out Russian vehicles at this point in the war, and even in the southern front where really nothing has happened for months on end. With that, we're now moving further down the line where we see more drone attacks being conducted by the 110th Territorial Defense Brigade in the Zaporizhia area against the Russians again. We can see the drone looking into the tree line for some Russian vehicles. We now see the drone still looking into the trees. We can clearly see a Russian armored vehicle down there. Bomblet now well on its way, and then exploding. Now see the bomblet once again falling onto an empty LB. Now you can see Russians scurrying around their trenches as the Ukrainians take a good look at it and then decide that that's a little bit too much fun for them. The bomblet explodes in the middle of the trench, most likely putting a lot of Russians into a nice, well-deserved nap. We can also see the remnants of a destroyed Russian armored personnel carrier right near that trench. And of course, the Russian soldiers are now descending into a quiet, long nap. And of course, I didn't do that one well at all. I shouldn't have even tried with how my voice is feeling right now. Now you can see them dropping another bomblet. And... oh, looks like it got someone pretty good right there. And so with that, that's the end of the video. And
look at that emblem. Did you see that?
I did, actually. Let's go back and look at that real quick. I'm going to have to go to the very end of the video, though, because there was something in there that YouTube may not like. So... let's see.
He's holding a Molotov cocktail, and he's holding, some Jamesons?
It's a Jameson break. And also we can see, like, some Motorola bat wings, and also, like a crown or something on it. It's a weird symbol, but it is it's a unique one. It kind of reminds me of 1940s cartoons in a way. But with that, that's the end of the video, and pretty neat to see the 110th Territorial Defense Brigade knocking out Russians down there on the southern front. Finally, moving on to Vasilivka, we saw a Ukrainian drone hitting Russians once more. We can see, once again, the Russians dig perfectly straight trenches. The straightest trenches. The bomblet then explodes in the trench. We can now see Russians walking down this incredibly narrow trench. Mr. Lunchtime simply would not survive in a trench like this. We now see a bomblet go off. We now see... what? Okay, hang on. Alright, so let me watch this again. So the bomblet hits the sandbag. That soldier was incredibly close. And then he just comes walking out the other end, holding his arm like, owie, owie, owie. They just start walking down the trench. Oh no, let's get you a band-aid, Ivan.
Tap to restart.
And so that...
was it like a video game?
I guess so. I guess he was wasted and he's going to spawn back in at some random hospital in the middle of nowhere. But with that, that's the end of the video. I'm pretty interested to see the Ukrainians once again using drones to inflict a decent amount of at least terror onto the Russians. With that, we're now going to be moving to the Kherson area, where we have seen some interesting things unfold. But before we get into the whole story of what's happened here today, we have to go north of the front lines to Khryvyi Rih to explain something that, of course, is of major note tonight, and why the title in the thumbnail says that Russia destroyed a major dam, because they did, north of Khryvyi Rih. Khryvyi Rih has several dams surrounding it that hold back these reservoirs of water, and one of them is right here. It is called the, let me think, what is it actually called? It's got a very long, actually, you know what? I'm just going to show you all the video of the missiles slamming into the dam because the name is on that video. I don't think I'll be able to pronounce it. Let me go to the second one real quick. It's on one of them. It's this one. The Karachunovskaya Dam. So, I don't even think I'm pronouncing it correctly there, but we're going to show you both videos of the Russians attacking this dam outright in an attempt to breach it, and at the end, they will breach the dam, and the water will begin flowing into Khryvyi Rih. You can hear the first Russian cruise missile flying in, straight towards the dam, and hitting it and exploding. When you see the plumes of smoke coming off the bridge after each attack. We can hear Matthew over there typing on his keyboard. Yeah, we could for a second, but it's fine. I know that whenever I type over here, I bet people can hear that incredibly well. When we see another Russian cruise missile flying towards the dam. You can now hear the explosion. And now, you can see the damage that's been caused. The dam was breached by these missile attacks, and the water began flowing out at a deadly speed. If you fell into that, you would die. can also see the Inholes Reservoir, and you can now see what's happening further downstream in the areas of Khryvyi Rih, where this water is pushing away pedestrian bridges and moving at an unbelievable speed. There's absolutely no way, if you fell into that river, that you could probably get out. The current is just too swift. And I know that someone's about to say, well, you just swim sideways. You know, you swim to the bank and you just eventually get there. Yes, that's true. But if you were to try and swim directly against it, you would just get swept away. And that's kind of what I meant, to clarify that real quick before someone says, well, actually, you can. Operator Starsky was able to confirm that the river has risen 3 feet from its prior level before the dam was destroyed. That doesn't sound like a lot. However, that 3 feet of swelling has caused multiple tens of thousands of people who live within Khryvyi Rih to have to evacuate the surrounding riverbanks as the water flowed over the banks and into multiple streets in the city, as far as we know. Tens of thousands of people have now been affected, and we don't know when the flooding will subside. This is another instance of a Russian war crime being perpetrated against the Ukrainian populace, because this does nothing to change the situation in Kherson, or the Kherson front line at all. All this does is flood the small Inholes River, which flows through Khryvyi Rih, and causes nothing but destruction and damage for the civilians that live there. So here's the next video of the dam being attacked.
Контактной висит дерево. Это его закинуло снизу. Блять, опять что-то летит. Летит.
Пиздец. One of the Russian cruise missiles flying in.
Блять. Ебать. Закрывай.
We now hear it slamming into the dam again.
Ебать. Еще одна.
We now hear another cruise missile flying in.
Блять. Машины быстро.
And so with that, that's the end of the video. And it's pretty interesting to see that the Russians are now going to start attacking dams in an effort to practically commit war crimes against the civilian population. With that, we're now going to be moving out of Khryvyi Rih, and we've now seen that the Ukrainians, of course, struck back in retaliation over the past few hours, with a HIMARS strike being directed at the Russian forces in Novokakhovka, which we can see here in this video. And also, apparently, these were once again being directed very close to the dam at Novokakhovka. You can see the explosions emanating in the background, and a nice glow coming from what is probably detonated ammunition or a destroyed vehicle. With that, that's the end of the video. It's pretty nice to see that the Ukrainians will never leave any, I guess you could say, unsolicited attack unaccounted for. We're now going to be moving to the front lines and covering the news that we've seen from here today. Starting off, we saw the Russians get hit in Kherson, but before I start, there was actually a great question that was asked from one of our viewers that I would like to try and find real quick and answer. So
I might have grabbed it, Enforcer. Can you remember the gist of it?
It was something like, you know, someone said that the flooding in Khryvyi Rih will cut the Ukrainians off in Kherson. You say it won't. Why?
Okay, I don't think I got that one.
I forgot who it specifically was, but it was something along that just so that way everyone could follow along with what I'm about to answer. The question was, Enforcer, some people say that the Russians attacked that dam and caused the flooding to try and cut the Ukrainians off in the Kherson area. You were saying it does nothing. Why is that? Here's why. The Ukrainians are conducting counterattacks in the Kherson area, and of course are largely basing most of it off of major roadways. There are no major roadways going from Khryvyi Rih directly to the Kherson area, specifically in the north, where most of everything, if we're going off of the assumption that Khryvyi Rih is used, would come from. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail or information about what's exactly happening down there or what I believe is happening down there, because it may be correct. But one thing I can tell you is that the flooding, as well, from this dam has only flooded... Let me actually highlight this area. It's only flooded, yeah, something like this area here. It's about a 9 square mile area in Khryvyi Rih, and you could see that it cuts off the Ukrainians from Dnipro, perhaps, if the floodwaters are high enough. And let's look at Khryvyi Rih and see how high up these bridges are over this river. So let me go here, drop down here. This is well above 9 meters. This road is well above, oh, not 9, 3 meters, around 9 feet above the river, or 3 feet above the river, clearly. And so that crossing of that major roadway would not be interrupted by the flooding of that river. Neither, I'm assuming, would the H11, although we're going to have to check on that one to make sure. The H11 right here, how high up is that? Can we get a street view? Yep, we can. Pretty freaking high. You can actually see that the riverbanks here seem to be fairly steep, at least taller than 10 feet, most likely around 20. And so the flooding, of course, is flooding some areas of the city, but it's not flooding any of the areas that, that I guess you could say, encapsulate the major roadways. And so the flooding isn't even cutting off the Ukrainians from places like Dnipro or Zaporizhia by road, which is really the only directions that these roads in Khryvyi Rih go to, or cutting off Ukrainian forces from traveling down the H11. It's not affecting the major roadways. It can still be used as, I guess you could say, a hub in between locations, and you can also just move the logistics into any other area of the city if you wanted, and it would still be fine. So with that, I hope that addresses that question fairly well, because that is nothing more. This attempt is nothing more than an attack against Ukrainian civilians. It has no strategic merit to it whatsoever, because also consider this. When the Ukrainians, because I'm sure that this is the example they're working off of, when the Ukrainians destroyed the dam on the Sea of Kyiv that flooded the area all the way from Demidov down to the Bucha-Hostomel airport area, that was on the front lines. It was actually used to cut off Russian soldiers. This, however, is nowhere near a front line. The dam that the Russians struck is actually, from our map, 35 miles away from the closest front line, so it does nothing to change the front line situation. It doesn't even do anything to change the logistical situation from how high up the major roadways are that are passing through Khryvyi Rih based off of the level that the river was already at. So with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, but once again, I do have to say this. While I have put forward what I believe to be pretty compelling evidence as to why it wouldn't matter and why it won't affect the Kherson front much, I could be wrong. There could be things I'm not considering here, and so always make sure to do a little bit of your own research, because while what I'm saying, I'm trying to make sure to put as much research and effort and logic into it as possible, I could be missing a couple of things that I'm not accounting for, so always make sure to check on it yourself. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from that a little aside real quick, because that was actually a good question. And we're now going to be moving back to the northern Kherson area, where we can see Russians being hit by Ukrainians' Erzivka unit. We can also hear some copyrighted music, and also see a pretty neat division emblem for the Erzivka down there in the bottom right. We now see these Russian vehicles burning and exploding in the tree line. A nice little flare flying off. Of course, it's not a flare, it's some kind of it's just some kind of ammunition that was burning as it flew from the vehicle. I can't really tell you exactly what it was, but still pretty neat to see. We now see more explosions occurring in that tree line, and the video ends there, but we could tell that the Ukrainians destroyed several vehicles and maybe some ammunition along with it. With that, we're now going to be moving on to the second video from this area, where we see the Russians being hit once again in the Kherson area, and once again at a garage. The Russians love their garages, and this right here is a great example as to why the Russians probably should not use a garage, or, since we do support Ukraine, they should use garages even more. When you see some Russians standing out in front of it, And now we see the artillery coming down. Dead on accurate, of course, as usual. The Russians are probably freaking out. We see the Ukrainian artillery once again slamming into the area, and that's the end of the video. And it's good to see that the Izium is directing artillery into the areas where Russians are and helping to knock them out any way they can. Moving on out of the northern Kherson area and down towards the south, we've also seen near the Kherson bridge trusses being transported by the Russians. We got photographic evidence of this today, as this bridge truss was being carried on the back of a KAMAZ, it appears. It is only one of what will most likely become several bridge trusses, but this may be showing that the Russians are attempting to create a somewhat temporary or permanent bridge, at least for the duration of this war, to replace the damaged and nearly destroyed Antonovsky Bridge that once crossed the river to Kherson. If this is the case, it seems that the Russians may be confident that the Ukrainian counterattacks will not be making a large amount of ground, although they better be careful about that kind of assessment, because if anything we've learned from the northeastern area is that Ukrainian forces can move at lightning fast speeds if the conditions are right. But still, it looks like they may be attempting to reconstruct another bridge. Now, with that, we're moving on to our final bit of news from the Kherson front before we move on to the rest of the news we have today, where we can see one of the rare Dana SPGs provided by the Czech Republic in action in the Kherson area. You see the SPG right here? Pretty nice sound to the gun. We now see the Dana reloading and firing again. We now hear the Dana reloading again. We can also see some kind of a mechanical arm on top of the breech that moves around during the reloading process.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's really interesting. See, I'm assuming that it must be some kind of an auto loader inside of that turret, and that's what that arm is being used for. That's really weird. With that, that's the end of the video, and a very nice look at one of those Czech SPGs that Dana, once again, provided by the Czech Republic, a great supporter of Ukraine. And with that, we have now covered all of the Kherson news and Khryvyi Rih news, but we have two last bits of news to cover. One in Spain, of all places, and one in the middle of Ukraine. Now, to move up to the middle of Ukraine, we have seen that some Ukrainian soldiers came home, and of course, it was a very nice little sweet video. And so I wanted to make sure to show it to y'all as families were reunited after these men and women have been defending their country for so long. And so, here's the video. You see the soldiers walking out to greet their family, and grabbing their kids, and giving them a good hug. Of course, their kids giving them a good hug back. Everyone looks glad to meet him and glad to see him again. And I bet they're all proud of him, considering that he's been out there defending their entire nation. With that, that's the end of the video. But once again, a very nice one to see. And so, I'm going to be showing y'all something for a second, because it's become a bit of a discussion within the European Union as to if Russian citizens should have their visas revoked and be deported back to Russia or told to return to Russia. And a lot of people have been kind of contended on this. Even in our live chat, there was a pretty heavy discussion that is had whenever this comes around. And once again, I want to remind everyone that we do encourage discussion and we do encourage people to talk to each other. However, please keep it civil. Just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean that there's some kind of an evil person who's trying to kill you and your whole family. Because I've seen that we're starting to have more and more discussions in the live chat that are heading in the direction where people are acting like people who disagree with them are evil people trying to kill them. And I just highly suggest that whatever y'all discuss, whatever it is, please make sure to keep it civil. However, this is, getting back to this, a large discussion that has permeated the entire world and also the European Union. People have said on one end that revoking Russian visas would not be right, because many people who fled Russia at the beginning of the war would then be forced to return to Russia and really have no recourse. Others, on the other hand, say that Russians are going around the European Union and terrorizing people, and of course, taking benefit of the Western world, but also trashing it at the same time and making some people's lives a hell on earth. And I've seen a picture today that I had to show with y'all, and share with y'all. Not show with y'all, share with y'all. The Ukrainians, a decent amount of Ukrainians, have ended up in Barcelona, Spain. I have never really looked at Barcelona, but I've heard it's a nice place within Spain. Also very interesting. It's a perfect grid. But it's a really nice grid. Anyways, getting back to the discussion about what we're talking about with Ukraine, there's a large refugee population of Ukrainians that live within Barcelona. And, well, there's some Russians there as well. And apparently one of these Russians has taken an affront to the Ukrainian refugee population living in a certain area of the city and has decided to vandalize a Spaniard's building and paint Z's all over it as a sign. And of course, notice this, the Spaniard who owns this building has a Ukrainian flag up in the window, and also a Ukrainian flag here on one of the papers. And we can see that some Russian has come by and taken the time with paint to paint Z's all over everything. And this is a pretty fair argument in the one direction of having Russian visas revoked. Russians that are in the European Union right now are not only terrorizing Europeans who support Ukraine, but they're also terrorizing Ukrainians that have fled the war and are now living elsewhere. And in this way, I can see a very good argument of having Russian visas revoked and having them sent back until the war is over. Of course, though, I do see the other side as well. I do see the point that people say there are Russians that fled Russia because they didn't agree with them, and they'll be sent back too. And maybe there can be some compromise made in the middle. Russian visas will be revoked, but if you came here for political asylum, you can file a certain form, which will be quickly reviewed at, maybe set up some kind of a special court to look at these forms and then have them approved on a case-by-case basis. So with that, I hope that addresses that for a second and what's been going on in the European Union for a little bit. And also, we will probably revisit Barcelona at some time. You can also tell where the medieval area of the city was because it's not a grid. I wonder what that looks like. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm kind of getting sidetracked here, but I got to see. Interesting. Very interesting. A lot of graffiti. A lot of graffiti, though. Not really a big fan of graffiti, but anyways, with that, we're now going to be moving on from Barcelona and from that last bit of news for the night, and we're now finally going to be moving on to the speech from President Zelensky here on day 204 after war, and of course showing that no car ramming his presidential motorcade will do anything to stop him. And so, without further ado, here's the speech from President Zelensky on day 204 of the war.
Українці, українки, щойно повернувся з Харківщини, з нашої Харківщини, з районів, які були звільнені. На сьогодні майже вся область деокупована. Це був безпрецедентний рух наших воїнів. Українцям знову вдалося зробити те, що багато хто вважав неможливим. Тільки за першу добу активних дій наші війська просунулись вперед на 19 кілометрів. За 5 днів з боями пройшли 110 кілометрів. Загалом деокуповано майже 400 населених пунктів. 150 тисяч українців, які залишались на цій території, тепер знову відчувають, що таке звичайне, безпечне, нормальне життя. Російська армія перебувала на Харківщині більше 5 місяців, і за цей час окупанти навіть не намагались щось зробити для людей, тільки знищували, тільки забирали, тільки вивозили. Залишили по собі спустошені села, і у деяких з них немає жодного вцілілого будинку. Окупанти залишили школи, перетворені на смітники, церкви розбиті, перетворені буквально на туалети. У звільнені райони отримали доступ і журналісти, і українські журналісти, і іноземні. Світ має побачити ці руйнування, має відчути біль, який Росія принесла українцям. Наші правоохоронці вже отримують свідчення про вбивства, про катування, про викрадення людей окупантами. Те, що світ побачив в Бучі, те, що ми побачили на деокупованій території Чернігівщини, Сумщини. Те, що бачимо зараз ми з вами на Харківщині, це докази геноциду проти українців. Докази того, що Росія не може принести нічого іншого, окрім геноциду. І скажу товарищам по-русски. Сегодняшние ваши ракетные удары, русские ракеты по Кривому Рогу, по дамбе Керченского водохранилища, по объектам, которые не имеют вообще никакой военной ценности, фактически по сотням тысяч обычных мирных людей. Это еще одна причина, почему Россия проиграет. Проиграет не только эту войну, а саму историю. Историю пишут люди, не люди никогда. Кем вы останетесь в истории? Все те, кто бьет этими ракетами. Те, кто пришел на нашу землю слабаками. Вы слабаки, которые воюют с гражданскими. Подлецы, которые, сбежав с поля боя, пытаются навредить откуда-то там издалека. Террористами вы останетесь, которые будут стыдиться их собственные внуки. События показывают, что единственный выход для российских солдат – это сдаться в плен украинским силам. Только это гарантирует им сохранение жизни и отношения в соответствии со всеми конвенциями. Каждый российский солдат уже должен был понять, что только в украинском плену никто не будет использовать его как пушечное мясо. В очевидно проигрышной для Росії війні. На місці ракетного удару по Кривому Рогу робиться все, щоб ліквідувати наслідки цієї чергової російської підлості, яка, можливо, сподобається божевільним російським пропагандистам, але точно не врятує морально-психологічний стан російських солдатів. Вони зрозуміли, що російське командування бездарне і що їх очікує в Україні розгром на всіх напрямках. Ніяким терором це Росія не виправить, бо терор тільки підтверджує слабкість того, хто до нього вдається. Сьогодні в Ізюмі я нагородив наших героїв. Це було честю для мене вручити державні нагороди саме на цій землі. На цій землі тим, хто звільняв цю землю. Я дякую воїнам 14-ї, 92-ї окремої механізованої бригади, 25-ї окремої повітряно-десантної бригади, 80-ї окремої десантно-штурмової бригади. Усім тим, хто всього лише за 5 днів змусив ворога панічно відступити, кинути техніку, боєприпаси, численні російські прапори. Дякую 107-й реактивній артилерійській бригаді, 40-й, 43-й, 44-й окремим артилерійським бригадам, 26-й артилерійській бригаді. Дякую. Хочу подякувати 15-й окремій бригаді артилерійської розвідки, усім воїнам, усім, які забезпечили своєчасне знищення ворожих цілей, просування наших сухопутних підрозділів. І, звичайно, дякую бійцям ГУР, усім, хто уміло перетворив паніку ворога на справжню істерику. Дякую генерал-полковнику Олександру Сирському та офіцерам його штабу, усім, хто спланував і успішно провів військову операцію по звільненню Харківщини. Український прапор повернеться в усі частини нашої держави, так само, як на Харківщині українських воїнів зустрічатимуть і на Донбасі, і на півдні нашої держави, і в Криму. Це буде обов'язково. Також сьогодні у Харкові я провів нараду щодо енергетичної ситуації в місті і області. Ми враховуємо те, що держава-терорист може вдатися до будь-яких нових підлостей усім рівням української влади, як центральної, так і місцевої, рятувальним службам, енергетикам, транспортникам поставлено завдання підготуватись до будь-яких сценаріїв. Потрібні резерви по енергії, по теплу, по водопостачанню на всі вирогідні випадки. Готуємось до завтрашнього активного дня, очікуємо новин з передової, будуть дипломатичні новини з Києва. З візитом прибуває президентка Європейської комісії Урсула фон дер Ляєн. Напередодні в Брюсселі був майже український день, вперше в історії Євросоюзу, в спеціальному засіданні Європарламенту під час щорічного звернення про стан об'єднаної Європи. Фактично була представлена і держава з-поза меж ЄС. Це наша держава. Поки що з-поза меж ЄС. Але ми працюємо заради повноправного членства політично, юридично і символічно. Перша леді України була присутня під час цього щорічного звіту президентки Єврокомісії. Ми маємо важливий результат цього візиту – 100 мільйонів євро для відбудови 74 шкіл в Україні в рамках Fast Recovery Plan. Зробимо все, щоб вдалося, і масштабна соціальна ініціатива скасування плати за роумінг для наших людей в ЄС і для європейців в Україні. Це буде вагомий сигнал про наше зближення. Я дякую пані Урсулі фон дер Ляйн, дякую всім нашим друзям в Євросоюзі за незмінну підтримку. Дякую усім нашим воїнам, дякую кожному і кожній, хто бере участь в рятувальних операціях після російських ударів. Відповімо терористам на кожну їхню подлість, на кожну ракету, на кожен снаряд. Ми це можемо. Слава Україні!
And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 204 of the war in Ukraine. And of course, that also wraps up our news segment for the night as well. If you've enjoyed this stream tonight and you are new to this channel, please make sure to subscribe and hit that bell button. Subscribing, of course, keeps you apprised of whenever we upload streams or videos, which we will be working on again in the future. It's just that right now things have, of course, gotten busy again with college, and so it's hard to find the time to do the videos once more, but we will be working on them still. We'll also be running these streams every single night of the week, except for Mondays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, covering the past 24 hours of the war every time it's on, except for Tuesday, where we cover Monday and Tuesday at the same time. And so with that, I thank you all so much once again for watching, and the fun has only just begun, as we're now moving into the question segment, where we're going to answer everyone's question who sent in a super chat and as many live chats as we can. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew? Take us on into those polls.
All right, folks, and it is now time to start rounding down the stream with the final question segment of the night. And we have two polls to address. And the first one said, do you think that attacking the Ukrainian dam is a war crime by Russia? It looks like 62% said yes, it is a war crime. 16% said maybe, but I'm not really sure. And 22% said no, it's a low blow, but not a war crime. So I believe, Enforcer, maybe you might want to pull it up. I think it's actually codified as a war crime.
Is attacking
to attack a dam
a war crime? The manual specifically prohibits attacks against dams, dikes, and nuclear power stations whose destruction may release dangerous forces unless these works and installations are used for other than their normal function and provide important and direct support to military operations. What is this specifically, this manual? This is from, let's see, attacking dams, customary international law. It's cutting off.
So there doesn't appear to be a clear-cut answer to the question.
A dam qualifies as a military objective, may be attacked subject to the rule of proportionality and the requirement to take precautions in attack. It doesn't seem like there is a clear rule here.
Now that's interesting, because I thought there would be.
See, let's go here. See, international law since 1945. Strategic bombing, tactical bombing, terror bombing, tactical bombing. That doesn't really answer any of our questions there. The Dam Busters did it in the Second World War, which was a British attack on German dams, so at least at that point, it doesn't seem that it was a war crime. But I have not really heard of any nations in the modern world attacking dams beyond the Second World War. So with that, I don't really know. Maybe there's someone in the live chat who can tell us if it is a war crime or isn't, but I still feel that it's unsolicited, uncalled for, and inhumane, especially in a war, to attack a dam that really has no military significance whatsoever, rather than to just flood multiple blocks within Khryvyi Rih. And so with that, I hope that addresses that poll fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and we're moving on to our second poll here. Had a little glitch there, it disappeared for a minute. But the question was, should Russian citizens have their passports or visas revoked and deported back to Russia? Now, this is somewhat of a controversial poll, because it looks like 56% of you said yes, they need to be sent back. 30% said, I'm divided on this one. And 15% said no, the Russian people aren't responsible, and meaning they aren't responsible for the actions of the government. Now, for me, I have to say I'm divided on this one. Because, there are Russians that are overseas that do not support what's going on in Russia. So is it right to send them back to a place where they're basically forced to think a certain way? But at the same time, if everybody tried to flee Russia, who's going to hold the government responsible in their own country? Because they're not going to be feeling the effects of what their government is doing. So who's going to uprise against them? So quite interesting poll here. But Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
I would have to say, I would also have to fall in the divided category as well, because I can see both sides of the argument fairly well, and I'm kind of on the fence with it. Honestly, considering I'm divided, I feel like there could be a compromise in between the two. I feel like if you are a Russian in the European Union, you should have your visa revoked and should be sent back to Russia. However, there should be a catch there, so that way the Russians who fled the country due to political persecution could remain in the European Union, because they're not, I guess you could say, the bad eggs that the European Union is trying to get rid of. And so I feel like there ought to be some kind of a special procedure that is made, so that way these people in particular do not have to go back to Russia, although their visas would most likely still be revoked. They could stay within the European Union for an undefined amount of time until the war is over, or set some kind of defined amount of time, like a 5-year special visa or something similar to that. Because I would hate to think that someone who escaped Russia, like a journalist or something like that, is sent back into Russia and then they're put in prison for 10 years because they were forced back. That would be something that wouldn't really bode well with me, but at the same time, it doesn't bode well with me to see that Russians are terrorizing Ukrainian refugees in Barcelona. That doesn't jive with me much at all. And we've seen... Go ahead.
Go ahead, Enforcer.
Oh, no.
I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
And we've also seen all kinds of attacks like that across the European Union, mostly in the Baltic states and sometimes in Poland and other countries. But with that, I hope that addresses that poll fairly well, and I'm going to let Matthew take over for a second.
And I was about to say, folks, I see a lot of people saying in the live chat, only deport the bad eggs. And they actually automatically do that already. If somebody's in a country on a passport or a visa and they commit a crime, then they're potentially subject to deportation. So that's sort of already the system in place. So for me personally, if I had to pick a solid option, I would say just leave it the way it is, because it would kind of be a little bit wrong, in my opinion, just to send them back, unless they are leaving the country of Russia and then going to another country to keep supporting Russia. Then I would say they probably need to be punished. But that's my thoughts on that. And I think the Enforcer put all of his thoughts out, if I'm correct.
I did, actually.
All right, so we're moving on to our next super chat, which is from Ronald Hugendorn, who puts in a €50 super chat and says, "No RT news today. I used to hate it, and now I can't wait."
Unfortunately, Unfortunately, Ronald, I could not find any Russia Today news to put on tonight's stream and, of course, laugh at. And Russia Today news is kind of a delicacy. There's not a lot of it, and whenever it's around, people love to just take a good pick at it, and I love to put a good pick in it, because it's just it's always just raw stupidity, especially from any kind of Russian state TV news network. So I thank you for the massive support, but sadly, we don't have any. I will try and find some, though, because I know that there is a demand out there to see raw Russian stupidity. It's a demand I like to fulfill as well. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $100 super chat from Stephen Wheeler, who says, "Congratulations on 100,000 subs."
And thank you so much for the support, Stephen Wheeler, and also thank you for the kind words. It's a neat thing to have reached 100,000 subs, and if I check, let me check, we are at, let me refresh that, we are at 100,310 subscribers. What do you know? We've already gotten another 300 subscribers over this stream. So, so I thank you so much for the support, Stephen Wheeler, and I hope that we are able to reach 250,000 subscribers even faster than when we reached 100,000. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $50 super chat from Justice Ryan, who says, "Enforcer and Matt, congratulations on your 100,000 subs. And I hope it'll be 150,000 subs in a few months." And hopefully so, Justice Ryan, and thank you for the support.
And thank you so much once again for the support, Justice Ryan. And I also agree with you as well. I think it would be cool if we did reach 150,000 subscribers within the next few months, probably within 2 to 3 months or 4. It really depends. But I thank you so much once again for the support, and you've been around for a long time. You've watched this channel grow, and I got to thank you so much for being here and being an old guard member of the Lee Spring Army. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again.
And next up, we have a $40 super chat from Dadgood, who says, thanks guys for another excellent stream. If you can please donate some of this to Wikipedia.
And also, we will donate a little to Wikipedia, because Wikipedia gets a bad rap. People say that Wikipedia is an unreliable source, but I have to counter that. Wikipedia is actually a pretty reliable source. Reason being, let me pull up something particular. The 30 Years' War. I've read a decent bit about the 30 Years' War, and they get a large amount of it right. They also throw in pictures. These are copyright free. Well, not copyright free. They usually have some kind of a license on them where they just have to give credit down in the, I guess you could say, what is it called? Footnotes. But largely, they get good pictures. And also, another thing, a lot of people always give it a bad rap that it's never sourced, but I don't think a lot of people ever go down to the bottom, because this is how I used to do a lot of my research as a younger kid, is that I would come onto Wikipedia, I would read the article about it, which is a general summary of whatever you're wanting to talk about. And then you can scroll down here to sources, and you could find every single source that was used to write this article. Most of them are made by historical organizations, museums, and other, I guess you could say, groups similar to it. There's also people on Wikipedia who go through and review the articles, and by and large, I think it is the best free-to-use public information platform there is out there for anything and everything you would want to pull up. You can even pull up simpler stuff. Well, not really simpler stuff. Things that aren't really related to history, like Gypsum, which is like a raw mineral, and it'll tell you all about Gypsum, its uses, its occurrences, and things like that. So I'm actually a big fan of Wikipedia, and I know that people roll their eyes because there's a group of people out there who act like you have to find a peer-reviewed article for something to be accurate. And while that is true, peer-reviewed is better than Wikipedia. It's not like Wikipedia is just garbage and lies about everything. It usually gets a lot true, and based off of me having going and reading loads about the 30 Years' War and then reading Wikipedia's article on it, it was largely accurate. There was in fact, I can't really think of any blaring discrepancies or just falsehoods that were put in the Wikipedia summary of the 30 Years' War, just as a single example. But with that, I thank you so much for the support, and I will make sure to put a little bit of that towards Wikipedia. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $20 super chat from Jonathan Toe, who says, congratulations on 100,000 subs. Do you get a YouTube plaque? And Jonathan, we want that plaque, man. We have to have it.
Jonathan, we want that plaque, man. I don't know if they're going to give us a plaque. Let me actually do something real quick on my second screen, and YouTube has still not told me congratulations on 100,000 subs. They haven't said it yet. Let me go check my dashboard. Also, we just got another 10 subs.
So, wow, thanks, folks.
Yeah, thank you very much to everyone who's subbing. That's really nice of you. And going over here, yeah, YouTube has not said anything about it. Like, congratulations for 100,000 subs. It's just kind of lame. But yeah, I'm sure that's just a few days around the corner. It's just that I haven't heard anything about them saying they're going to send us a plaque or anything like that. And I think it's really cool to have a plaque. You know, it's kind of done at their discretion, though, so I don't know. So with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that kind of addresses the question in a way. But we're about as in limbo as everyone else about whether we're going to get one or not. So with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
All right, and up next, let's see here. There we go. Just had to do that real quick. But anyways, up next, we have a $20 super chat from Mel... Wait a minute, I hit the wrong guy. I'm sorry, Jorn. I got the wrong person. The bot be gone was deployed on the wrong individual. Let me fix that real quick. And let me get the right person. There we go. Bot be gone. But anyways, Moving on to our next super chat, we have a $20 donation from Mel Cortez, who says, Slava Ukraine. Also, dumb question, what does it mean to do a cold shutdown?
That's a stupid question. I'm just kidding you, Mel.
That's a pretty deep question, actually.
That's actually a very deep question to the point I won't be able to answer it perfectly, but I can give you an idea of what a cold shutdown is. A cold shutdown, like for example with the nuclear power plant, means that the reactors are brought offline and not deactivated, but shut down for, I guess you could say, storage. And considering that there will be no, I guess this is where the terminology comes from, all reactors, boilers, or any kind of electrical generating unit, except for a solar panel or a wind turbine, is trying to produce some kind of heat to, of course, power to boil water, to turn it to steam, to then spin a large turbine that then creates electricity. The cold shutdown side of things comes from shutting down that process of heating up the water and making everything go cold, so that way the reactor, the boiler, or whatever it may be, stops producing steam to produce electricity. So at least in the terminology, that's what I understand it to mean, and it means that equipment will be shut down to where it's not producing steam, it's not going to be producing electricity, and then it'll remain that way for an indefinite amount of time until they turn the thing back on. So with that, I hope that answers the question, Mel Cortez, the best I can. I may be wrong on that one, so of course, take it with a grain of salt. And every time I say anything, and I try and say something a little definitive, so that way at least I'm not just trying to cop out on everything, there's always someone out there. It's almost like a reservation in my head now. It's almost like the grammar Nazis of olden times that would always come around and say, oh, you're getting it wrong. They make me scared to say words. There's now people these days who dwell in the live chat that when I say something, and I'll sit there at the end of it and say, I'm not really an expert on it, take it with a grain of salt, but that's what I understand to be, oh, you're so uneducated, you don't have an idea what you're talking about. And it almost makes you skeptical to even go into anything and talk about it, because there's always going to be someone out there that says you have no idea what you're talking about. But I hope I've answered that question fairly well. If I'm wrong, just make sure to do a little bit of your own research. Might be wrong on it, but that's what I understand it to mean. And also, Magic Sky Girl said, I'm very salty with all these salt grains. I'm sorry, everyone. It's almost, we're actually going to make merch on that eventually, because the grain of salt thing is like, I guess, the Lee Spring Army cuisine at this point. Man, you like have a plate and you just see a small little speck on it, and it's just a grain of salt. That's the dish. It's just a single grain.
Or you remember the guy who like cuts the steaks and he like lets the salt run down his arm and stuff like that. Who's that guy?
I don't know. I know what you're talking about though. He does his arm in that weird way and he sprinkles the salt down onto it.
That's so gross, by the way, that he lets the salt touch his arm. That's just really nasty. And then people eat it's just nasty to think about. But yeah, we'll have to come up with something for merch, like maybe a plate of salt, maybe a pile of salt, a picture of a salt mine, or something like that.
And we will probably try to work on that in the future, honestly. But with that, I hope that answers that part of the question fairly well, Mel Cortez. And what was the first thing he said?
It was just that one question, actually.
Oh, well, with that, I hope we answered the question fairly well, and thank you so much once again for the support, Mel Cortez. You've been around and helping out this channel forever, and I gotta thank you once again. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
Oh, okay, and I see people saying the guy's name is Salt Bay. I think that sounds familiar. I think that is the guy. But anyways, he charges a crazy amount for those steaks he's putting out there. It's insane. But anyways, moving on to our next super chat, we have a $20 donation from Super Bonker 9000, a member of NAFO, who says congratulations on 100,000 subscribers.
And thank you so much for the congratulations and the support. It has taken us a little bit of time. It's taken us about 6 months to get to 100,000 subscribers, but I'm still more than proud that all of us have been able to make this little adventure together, and that we'll hopefully be on our way towards 250,000 in the near future. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, and also thank you so much for being a member of NAFO. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Will Riley, who says Dick Cheney and the resurrected carcass of Sylvia the Sockeye Salmon are planning an attack on Russia. Sylvia by sea and a flying Dick Cheney with his laser eyes by air. It's going to be a massacre. Believe me, bro.
What in the world is this mashup going on here? Sylvia the Sockeye Salmon and Dick Cheney existing in the same message seems like it can never really happen, but it's happened. That is crazy. And also, I thank you for the support, and also thank you for throwing in that mashup there, because that's a pretty funny one to think of. And it's interesting to think that Sylvia the Sockeye Salmon is back. I thought Sylvia died.
I think Sylvia did die. I think it fell down, the ranks of the, what is it, the salmon, like council or something like that. It like got handed down to somebody or something.
Yeah, I think
Sylvia's grandchild.
I think so, but much like one of those modern Star Wars movies, the newer ones that everyone kind of ratted on, I guess like they said in that movie, somehow Palpatine returned, somehow Sylvia the Sockeye Salmon returned. But with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, and I hope you've enjoyed me addressing that comment for a little bit. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $20 donation from David Prange, who says, "Free Navalny from prison."
And I would have to agree, Navalny didn't deserve to go to prison, and I think he should be freed. Maybe he should run in the next free election in Russia to see if he will become the president. But with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $20 donation from Kaltenberg once more, who says, "What did I miss in the last hour?"
You missed a little. We talked about the dam being ruptured in Khryvyi Rih. We talked about the southern front in the Kherson area, and also Ukrainian soldiers returning home. Make sure to rewind them, because rewinding helps us out with analytics. If y'all go back and watch this stream twice over its full length, which is a huge undertaking, because even right now it's 2 hours and 11 minutes long, but if y'all did that, it helps us out in the analytics, and YouTube goes, hey, these guys are really keeping their audience engaged. They're watching it a lot. They're watching more than 100% of the video. They're going back and watching it twice over, and then they go and promote it to more people, which gets this news out to others. And then more people watch it, more people get to watch this news nightly, and the cycle then continues. And so with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well, and thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $20 donation from Bass Girl, who says, "I'm so proud to be an LSA Old Guard member. I'm so thrilled for you and Matt on reaching your goal. This stream is making a difference. This grandma loves y'all. Please take a live stream question. Y'all are fantastic." And Bass Girl, thank you very much for the kind words and the fantastic again. And after the enforcer comments on that, I'm going to move on to sponsor your live chat question.
And also, I would love to thank you so much for the kind words, Bass Girl. You have been around forever. I believe since day 4, if I can remember correctly. And so I got to thank you so much for always being here. I'm glad that you enjoy this channel a whole load, and you're always showering us with the compliments. And I've got to thank you so much for enjoying this channel and helping us to keep it running, because you've been one of the main hype people behind us forever, it seems, and I gotta thank you every single day for that. And so with that, now that I've addressed your kind words, we're now going to uphold your request and make sure to read off a question from the live chat.
And the first question for the live chat, sponsored by Bass Girl, goes to Happy Dragon, who says, "Enforcer and Matthew, do we know how many tanks Russia started with, and how many have been captured or destroyed?"
We know that the Russians have around 4,000 tanks operational in their entire military. We know at this point that according to Ukrainian reports, around 2,000 of them or more have been destroyed. And so going off of that number, around half of Russia's tank force, the operational part of their tank force, has been knocked out. And so I hope that answers the question fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right, and moving right along, our next super chat is from Krister Peterson, who does not leave a comment. But Krister, thank you for being also a member of the LSA Old Guard, and thank you for your support. And Enforcer, would you like to add anything to it?
Yes, I would. I would love to thank you once again as an Old Guard member for helping the stream to keep on running. It means a lot, and it helps me to keep the lights on and keep fed, and also keep getting busy, so that way I can keep doing this. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $20 donation from Knuckles. What the hell am I talking about? I meant to say Knuckles. Oh my goodness. Knuckles. But anyways, Knuckles says, "Wow, man, congrats. Y'all come so far. Keep up the good work. And my question is, what do you think Europe will do about gas situation, seeing that they have said it going be long hard winter?"
Well, thank you for the support, Knuckles, and it's been a long time since you've been around. Now, to answer that question, I think that the Germans, the European Union, is just going to find gas elsewhere because it's not just a dead end. Russia is not the only market that produces natural gas and oil, and so there are other countries like the United States, or, for example, like we were talking about in last night's stream, Azerbaijan, where they could go and find more oil and more natural gas to try and keep the prices low and make sure that things by and large turn out okay. And so with that, I hope that answers the question, and thank you once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $20 donation from Tim Price, who says, "Another candidate for Soviet Putin's alias, KGB Kremlin J, Gitter Boy."
Can you reread that one again real quick?
Yes. Let's see here. Tim Price says, "Another candidate for Soviet Putin's alias, KGB Kremlin Gitter Boy." I'm not sure what that means.
I don't know what that means either. But I do thank you for the support. Unfortunately, I can't really comment on it because I don't know what it means, but go Gitter Boy, raise hell, praise Dale, yeehaw! And so then we're on to the next one, and thank you once again.
Yeehaw! All right, and moving on to our next super chat, we have a $15 donation from Junebug, who says, "I object to my question, give it towards the live chat." And that reminds me, speaking of objecting to your question, of that lawyer in the Johnny Depp trial objecting to his own question. That was like a flashback for a minute. But Junebug, we always honor the request. So this question is sponsored by Junebug, and it goes to, let's see, Packrat, who says, "With more and more council members all over Russia signing the petition to remove Putler, do you think Putler will start ousting his mutineers as all the others?"
Oh yes, he'll have to, because he can't risk having these people around publicly dissenting against him, or else there may be a movement that grows that then throws him out. So with that, I would have to 100% back the idea that he'll start ousting these people now that they've made their sentiments clear. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And thank you so much, Junebug, for sponsoring a live chat. That was very nice of you. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $12 super chat. I said stupid chat. $12 super chat from Junebug with the 72 at the end, who says, "Congratulations on 100,000 subs. Woohoo, and Slava Ukraine."
And thank you so much for the support, Junebug72. And also, I'm really proud to have finally reached 100,000 subs. It does say a lot about how people have been enjoying this channel, and I hope that people continue to enjoy it well into the future as we continue to cover this war and eventually move on to other stuff. Also, I saw someone say, real quick, to address this, I think it was Magic Sky Girl said, "Don't focus on the people who complain. There's people who complain about everything." And at this point, it kind of does feel that way, because of course there's a lot of good things that we do on this channel, and people tend to run things into the ground, and I kind of started getting stuck in that feedback loop where people don't try and understand or listen. And that was with the A10 last night. And I have to say this real quick, okay? Because I saw that almost all of the comments I got when I pulled up my YouTube studio this morning were about the A10. And someone sat there and, you know, they went and wrote essays, literal essays, over and over and over about it. And
unfortunately, you kept this quiet from me. I didn't hear a word about it.
Yeah, and well, actually, I sat there and listened to this guy, and here's something he said. The A10's round can penetrate up to 59 millimeters of armor at a range of a kilometer. And, well, a mile or a kilometer. Well, no, it was a kilometer. I'm sorry, correction. And the roof of a T-72 or a T-62 is 30 millimeters thick, okay? Gotta put this out there. What you're saying, what you're trying to compare, what you're trying to compare is the thing that he's trying to say there, and let me say this, is you're thinking that a 30 millimeter sheet is being hit straight on, flat on, by an armor-piercing A10 round and going straight through the armor. That doesn't happen Because if an A-10 is even at a 30-degree angle, that means the 30mm armor-piercing depleted uranium round is hitting the roof of the tank at a 60-degree angle. So, armor, let's see, wait a minute, hold it. It's armor deflection, armor penetration calculator, I think it is. Penetration calculator. So let me go here. Caliber, no, this is not the one I pulled up earlier. Let me go back real quick on my second screen. Give me just a second, everyone. Let's see here. Let me scroll down. Way down. It's not going to be during the stream at all. Jeez, I click on a lot of stuff during stream. I was just looking at that. Oh my god. Hundreds of things. Just, gosh, dang. Didn't realize that.
And what are you trying to find, Enforcer?
Trying to find the specific little website that I clicked on earlier.
Now, see, folks, if the Russians ever get the Enforcer, they know exactly what to do to make him crack. They're going to be like, do you like that A-10, boy? Do you like that A-10?
Here we go.
He's going to be like, no, sir. No, sir.
Here we go. I found it. Here we go. This is on Panzer World. Apparently, it's some kind of tank enthusiast website. But armor thickness with a primary angle of 60 degrees. Because remember, the plane's at a 30-degree angle. Wait a minute. Hang on. 30-degree angle. About right there. I'm trying to think about that. I think that would be correct. So, let me calculate it. Wait a minute, no. T-72 is like 31, so let me calculate that. 62 millimeters of thickness, hitting it at that angle. The round at a kilometer away has 62 millimeters of penetration, which is where the A-10 would most likely fire the burst from. There is no way, even hitting the roof at a 30-degree angle, that round could go through. That's the whole point I've been trying to make. Unless if it was being used like a dauntless dive bomber, which is never going to happen, the A-10 cannot shoot straight into the crew compartment or the ammunition and blow up the tank like a Stugna or a TOW missile just slammed into it. It can hit the engine, it can hit the track, it can take out the gun barrel. It cannot do anything like directly blowing up the tank by punching straight through the armor. It can't even happen if you hit it on the roof. And if you sit there and do it off of a realistic angle, which is not 30 degrees, it's 20 degrees, that means the relative thickness is 90 millimeters, which means that you're nowhere close, even if you were point blank on that tank, as penetrating the top roof of the armor. It's not going to happen. It just can't. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to just say it this way. I'm sorry if you're a huge A-10 fan and it hurts your feelings to hear that the gun can't do everything, that it can't just shoot through the center of the Earth and blow up the Earth's mantle and its core. It just can't happen. Mathematically, it's not there. The A-10, of course, can use Mavericks. It can do all kinds of other stuff. But I'm sorry. I deal in facts, information, and statistics, and mathematically, the gun just can't do what everyone says it does. It just can't. It can disable the tanks. It can't blow them up. So with that,
that's heresy.
So with that, we're on to the next one, and I'm sure that the hellfire has started in the chat again if I look over.
All right. Well, folks, we're on to our next super chat. This one is from Farm Builders, who puts in a $20 super chat and says, earlier in the live chat, I mentioned a journalist named Anatoly Kharkiv. Do you think the LSA could help him by replacing his equipment?
Who is that again?
He says a journalist named Anatoly Kharkiv.
If he can be helped through a Guide Star program that we can run a fundraiser for through there, we could. But we don't run any fundraisers on our own, like without YouTube's platform, because there's no way for us to really show where that's going. And I feel like it's not really, and I know that a lot of people trust us, but still, me thinking of myself, looking at this channel as a viewer, I don't really trust PayPal fundraisers and stuff like that. So unless if it was through a Guide Star program, we wouldn't be able to do that. But I do thank you for the support and the idea. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right. And moving right along, we have a $12 super chat from Stefan R., who says, Mike, my black cat is spending 20 of his own.
Well, I thank you for the support, and I didn't know the black cat had cash. But thank you for the support. And if your black cat does have a job, I would like to know what kind of jobs cats can work at. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support and also an interesting comment. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And next up, we have a $10 super chat from Nick Gaspy, who says, "Congratulations, gentlemen, on 100,000.
And thank you so much, Gatsby, for the 100,000. Congratulations.
Gaspy.
Gaspy?
Gaspy, not Gatsby.
I thought it was Gatsby. It sounded like you said Gatsby, but thank you so much for the support, Gatsby. And it helps us out a lot. It helps us keep running this channel so that way we can keep on talking about Ukraine and also the plane, which we will not mention again. But I do thank you so much once again because it does help us out a massive deal. And I hope that we're able to grow up to 250,000 subscribers in the future. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Sean Collins, who says, "Why do you think a face reveal is a good idea? I hope you reconsider it."
Well, I thank you for the support, and I know that a lot of people would like me to reconsider this, but regardless whether it's a good deal or not, I'm a person of my word, and so if I make a promise, it's a promise, and I've promised people for months now that when we reached 100,000 subscribers, I would do a face reveal, and so I have to uphold my promises. There's never been a promise on this channel that I've never held up. Well, there's been one time I haven't, but that was because of a copyright strike, and I really didn't have any control over whether we could stream that night or not. But I made a promise, so I have to do it for that reason. And also the other thing is that a lot of people have been interested in who's behind this microphone and what do I really look like. Some people have found that out by, researching on the internet because somehow they found a way. But a lot of y'all do not know who I look like or a lot about me outside of these streams. And I think that it would be just a service to do in a standalone video. It won't be done on stream, and even after the face reveal, y'all aren't going to see me in the bottom corner of the stream like on a camera, because I don't like being filmed on a stream, because I want to make sure that instead of having to focus on my facial expressions and all kinds of stuff like that, I can just focus entirely on what I'm saying and what I'm having to think about. And so it won't ever be, my face won't ever be shown on stream, but I will show it on a one-off video, and probably in other videos that come out on the channel, because it will cut down on the editing a lot. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And also, I think that some people who have been skeptical about this channel will not be well, they won't have any excuse to be skeptical anymore, because I'll have shown my face. And so there's not really any leeway where you can go, oh, well, I don't know about this guy, because, you can see me, well, at least in one video. And so with that, I hope that addresses the question fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And real quick, folks, to address the poll that we have running, the question is, would you like to see Navalny become the president of Russia when they are defeated? It looks like 76% said yes and 24% said no. So obviously that could be a long way off, but interesting. A lot of you want to see him become president. So Enforcer, any thoughts real quick?
I think Navalny would make an interesting president. I don't know a lot about his politics, but I do know that he is what was considered the largest opposition to Putin before he was arrested, and for that reason I would support him. And so with that, I hope that answers the question, well, the poll, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat once more from Will Riley, who says, "Too bad that Putin made it out of the trap set by Dick Cheney. He believed that the Operation Sarkar would be a resounding success."
Well, thank you for the support. Let me get this right. It's not William Allen, it's Will Riley.
It is.
Yes! Okay, I got it right this time. For some reason, it always mixes me up. I can literally hear the name, and I still get it confused. But I do thank you so much for the support, Will Riley. And also, it's unfortunate to hear that Dick Cheney's plot has failed. But hopefully, it will succeed next time. There was a group that had a very inspirational quote. They said, we can get it... wait a minute. Let me think about it. Let me actually pull it up on my second screen. Let's see. 1, 2... Let me read y'all this inspirational quote. Today we were unlucky, but remember, we have to be lucky once. You will always have to be lucky. And that, of course, comes from your Instagram bot accounts that are always putting out inspirational quotes. But the real truth is that that actually was a letter sent to Margaret Thatcher by the IRA, which is kind of weird because it sounds like an inspirational quote. But anyways, moving on from that, that is something that Putin will also have to consider, is that he has to be lucky all the time. People who wish him the worst only have to be lucky once. And so with that, I hope that addresses the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from William Allen, who says, even the U.S. used felons during World War II. Just watch The Dirty Dozen, and you'll get the whole story. It's a cool movie. I love Lee Marvin movies, and whoop!
The Dirty Dozen is a 1967 American war film directed by Robert Aldrich, starring Lee Marvin. I don't know why I had to go into a Scottish accent for that, but interesting. Is it a fictional movie? Is it based on a true story? Set in 1944 during the Second World War. Let's see, the plot. It seems like this may be a work of fiction. It didn't have a nice box office, though, compared to its budget. That's something. But dang, I can't find... Compiled annually, The Dirty Dozen lists a variety of common scams that taxpayers may encounter any time, but many of these schemes peak. That's from the IRS. Apparently, The Dirty Dozen is some kind of a tax scam. But anyways, I can't find any validity to whether they were real or not. But it's still an interesting concept to use prisoners in war, but I don't think it's a good one. I think prisoners would largely be unhinged, and it'd be very hard to keep discipline and order in a unit that is made up of people whose lives have been made up of being undisciplined and disorderly. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again for the support in bringing that up.
And just real quick, a heads up, we do have about 37 more super chats to go. So moving on, we have a $10 donation from Bobucks Guy, who says, Nick Gurr, an English volunteer in Ukraine and friend of mine, says he loves you guys for the work you're doing, covering recent events in Ukraine. Mariupol next.
Well, I thank you for the support. Matthew, I think we just got had there.
What you mean?
Reread that name in your head again.
I don't get it.
Well, I thank you for the support, but we're going to move on to the next one.
All right, and next up, we have a $10 super chat from Phil Tatham, who says, Oscar Durlwanger's SS Penal Battalion is a prime example of why using prisoners is a bad choice.
And I would have to agree. I've never really seen a historical instance where prisoners have been used well in war. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
Oh boy, and I just realized what that guy just had me say just there. And that was not good at all. So we don't appreciate that at all. But moving on, we have a $10 super chat from Ultron Prime, who says, my fat fingers messed up last night's super chat. I definitely do not wear 7 shirts at a time, LOL. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, so that would be a death sentence in this heat.
And Jacksonville, Florida, wearing 7 shirts, you would be dead. I would have to agree. And also, it's totally fine. The typo was entertaining and funny to think about, and so it's totally fine by me. But I do thank you so much for the support, and I hope that does address the comment fairly well. I'm still trying to sit here and think about what may happen because of the slip-up we just had. But with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
All right, and next up, we have a $10 super chat from Philip Fixes, who says, I install solar by day and deliver Uber Eats by night. You two have kept me awake since day 17, and you'll always get my donation every Sunday. Congrats on 100,000. Stay humble. Slava Ukraine and Slava LSA.
Well, I thank you so much for the support, and I'm glad that you do enjoy this on the road. And also, I thank you so much for the support, and of course, helping this channel to keep on running. Without viewers like you, it wouldn't be possible to keep on running these streams. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, and with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $10 donation from Ultron Prime, who says, I wear different Ukrainian shirts to work daily to spread awareness. There is a Ukrainian church here where you can directly donate to refugees with toys, clothing, etc.
Well, that's really nice. There's a lot of organizations in the United States that have been trying to help out the best they can, and I think that's a really nice one right there for sure. It's just really kind by and large, and so with that, I thank you so much for support and also sharing that information with us. And also, I highly suggest that while we do run fundraisers that are verified through the Guide Star program, it of course is neat to know that there are little, I guess you could say, like smaller fundraisers or grassroots things that are being done around the country and around the world to help out refugees that are in pretty tough situations. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, we have another $10 super chat from Ultron Prime. And Ultron, thank you very much for your continued support. And they say, when she said no, I told her about us and she liked and subscribed to the Enforcer, so we now have another Ukrainian in the LSA from the 23rd Southern Recruiting Brigade, Slava Ukraine, and let's go.
Hey, well, thank you so much for the support, and that's really cool to hear we have another Ukrainian watching. And if they're watching right now, hello, how are you doing? And also, I thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
All right, and next up, we have a $10 super chat from Carolyn, who says, congratulations on your success. It's scary that 7 or 8 cruise missiles got through to the dam.
And also, thank you so much for the kind words of support to this channel. And also, it's not that surprising to see the missiles made it to the dam, at least in my opinion, because while the Ukrainians are able to intercept some cruise and ballistic missiles, they aren't incredibly successful by the number launched versus the number shot down. It seems that they are still deficient in the, I guess you could say, missile interception area, and that's why we should still lobby Western countries to send over missile defense systems like a NASAMS, although Ukraine does have around 2 of them, or Patriot missile defense systems as well, as those would work. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from William Allen, who says, check out the F-117 with the flag on the underside. It is awesome.
The F-117. Oh, I have seen that one. That is a really cool one. F-117, American flag. Is that cool or what?
Is that real?
Yeah, it's real. Yeah, they painted one up like that.
That's crazy. It looks like it's been photoshopped.
Yeah, and I love that. It looks incredibly cool, and I think that is a great way, an incredible way to put the American flag on an aircraft. It blends with the style of the plane. It's just perfectly done. There's very few ways, in my opinion, that the U.S. flag can be implemented in an easy-to-see way that is, of course, visually enthralling, but this is certainly one of the ways that it was done the best. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support in bringing this one up, because that was a great point to talk about as an American flag implemented properly. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again.
And next up, we have a $10 super chat from Colorado Hiker 7002, who says, I will be in Kyiv in about 10 days. I can say Russian pig dog in Ukrainian.
Well, if you're going to Kyiv, I think that will do you a lot of good to say that whenever you hear the word Rossiyski said anywhere in Ukraine. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support, and I hope you have a fun time in Kyiv, because while there is a war going on, Kyiv is largely out of the fray now, and it has been for a couple of months. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support.
And next up, we have a $10 super chat from Jay Bagwell, who says, LSA is 100,000 strong. Congratulations, gentlemen. If you have time, check out the flag of Sicily.
And also, thank you so much for the support and the kind words. And let's check out that flag of Sicily. The Sicily flag. Oh, that's that weird flag. I've seen this before.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's really weird. I don't even know what it's supposed to represent, but it is just odd. So with that, thank you for the support and letting us take a look at this for a second. And also, thank you so much for congratulating us on 100,000. I hope we're able to get to 250,000 in the future. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And next up, we have a $10 super chat from MJ, who says, if Ukraine can take Kherson, can they divert or block the canal that supplies Crimea with water?
Can you reread that one real quick?
MJ said, if Ukraine can take Kherson, can they divert or block the canal that supplies Crimea with water?
They could. They really could. And they did that before the war as well, and that's why Crimea was going through a decent amount of droughts, is because the Ukrainians did dam off the waterways that went into Crimea and fed it fresh water. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat once more from Kaltenberg, who says, everyone congratulate Plonsky for 31 days with no SIGs. And Paul, congrats to you and a big yeehaw!
And also, Paul, congratulations on getting 30 days without SIGs. SIGs are, of course, addictive, well, highly addictive. I have a lot of friends who can't stop smoking them, and that is a huge achievement to be an entire month without smoking a cigarette. I hope you continue on, and I hope you never pick up a cigarette again. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support, and thank you very much for letting us know about that, because I did not know about that until right now, and that is an incredible thing you're doing, Paul. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Santiago Flores, who says, good evening to the Enforcer team. An interesting fact, it appears that the F-111 during Desert Storm were credited with the destruction of 1,500 Iraqi armored vehicles, more than the A-10. Interesting.
And that is true, and that's also another reason why I say the A-10 isn't as impressive as people think. The F-111 Aardvark was gone before its time. This was a good aircraft. It was a great one. I mean, there's really nothing that was wrong with the F-111 Aardvark, in my opinion. That was, of course, shelved and retired. It's no longer in service. But according to the statistics, it did destroy more ground vehicles than the A-10 would during the course of the entire Gulf War. And according to the sortie numbers, I believe the F-111 flew less sorties than the A-10, but still ended up destroying more aircraft. Well, not aircraft, ground vehicles. And so for that is true, and that's another reason why, and I'm not always trying to get into the massive history of, I guess you could say, military aircraft and military history every time I talk about the A-10, but that is one of the reasons why I still think there are better aircraft out there that can do the job. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again for bringing that up.
All right, and next up, we have a $10 super chat from Eduardo Gonzalez, who says, who would win a fight? A honey badger in heat? Let's see, hold on here. A honey badger in heat wearing a Pikachu patch versus a shirtless Putin riding a horse swinging a banged up bumper that fell off a car.
The honey badger in heat would probably win, because shirtless Putin has only made himself weaker against the strong claws of a honey badger. And so with that, I hope that addresses the question fairly well. Pretty good joke question, too. I like that one. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Tim Price, who says, KGB equal Kremlin jitter boy, jitter starting with a G, get it's an acronym. Congrats on 100,000.
And thank you so much for the support. And of course, it has been quite a journey to get to 100,000, but I'm glad to have made it, and I hope we're able to continue on to 250,000. And so with that, could you reread the first part of that one, Matthew?
Yes, he said, let's see here. KGB equal Kremlin jitter boy, jitter starting with a G.
I don't know particularly what that means, but I think I understand the sentiment behind it, and I will agree with it. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $20 super chat from William Allen, who says, wrong, A10DS, 501 APC, 249 CP, 11 Frog missile, 281 military structures, 96 radars, 72 bunkers, 9 SAM sites, 2,000 vehicles, 1,306 trucks, 53 scuds, 10 ACFT ground kills, 987 tanks, and 2 helo. U.S. Air Force DS deployed historian.
And I thank you for the support, William Allen. And I do know that you are a historian, and that is a pretty interesting point to bring up about the A10, but I don't know what that is in specific reference to. But I do thank you for the support. And if you would like to clarify what that was in reference to saying was wrong, which statement it was, I will make sure to circle back to it. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
All right, and next up, we have a $10 super chat from William Allen once more, who says, of course it was fiction.
Of course it was fiction. I don't know what that would be an exact reference to, but I hope that it's something I can agree with. And so with that, thank you once again, William Allen, for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Richard Philpott, who does not leave a comment. And we also have a $6 donation from Junebug and a $5 donation from Suze K. Sullivan. They don't leave comments, but thank you very much to all three of you for your support of our channel. We appreciate it very much. And moving on to our next super chat, we have an $8 donation from Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin, who says, clap, 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 100,000 subs.
Well, I thank you for the little claps, and also I'm pretty happy to have also reached 100,000 subs, and I hope that we're able to continue growing the Lee Spring Army and make it even larger than ever before, hopefully getting up to 250,000 in the future. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Angry Penguin, formerly known as AP, who says 100,000. Great job, guys. To the future.
And also, thank you so much once again for the congrats on 100,000 and 250,000 to the moon. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from William Allen, who says F111 versus A10 and the movie Dirty Dozens.
All right. So now that we got that, let's go back to that one. Wrong. Man, I hate to say this, but it doesn't clarify which is for which. I'm assuming. I don't know. I mean, like I'm trying to read that. If it's the F111 versus the A10, I don't really see the verses in there. I don't really know. But I do thank you once again for the support, William Allen. And with that, we are on to the next one. And if you could clarify it, please don't send in another super chat. I'm not trying to make you send in super chats. Just send it in as a live chat, and we'll make sure to read it and then go from there. And so with that, thank you once again for the support, and we are on to the next one.
All right. And next up, we have a $5 donation from Rizzo Loca, who says Putin and Jinping have been talking, according to mainstream news. What do you think may be festering behind the closed doors?
I wouldn't really know at all. It could just be a trade deal. It could be military arms and aid. It could be a defensive pact. I'm not entirely sure, and I haven't really been following that enough to really get an idea as to know what it may be. So with that, I thank you for the support, but I'm going to have to declare ignorance on that one, and we're going to move on to the next one. But thank you once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Squamous Amos, who says, Woo Pig Suey. Congratulations on 100,000 subscribers. Sadly, I had to sign off before that milestone was achieved.
Oh, well, that's totally fine. I'm more than happy to have made it, and I'm happy to know that you did watch the stream and enjoyed it until you couldn't. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support and also the kind words as we finally reached 100,000 subscribers. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $5 super chat from J340, who says, Enforcer, have you ever heard of the M9 Ace? Talk about Russian vehicle reliability. The M9 Ace blow hydraulic line while sitting in the motor pool.
M9 Ace. M9 Ace. I hate to tell you, I have never heard about this thing. I've never even seen it before. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to declare ignorance on this one, because I have no idea what this vehicle even is. It looks like an incredibly shortened M113, but then again, I'm not even entirely sure about that. So with that, I thank you for the support, but unfortunately, I don't even think I can begin to talk about this because this is the first time I've ever seen it. But with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Loretta Cued, who says Putin invaded so Ukraine couldn't put them out of business. Ukraine has oil reserves in Donbas, Crimea, and near Moldova that would crush Russia. Contracts were dropped when Crimea was invaded.
Let's see. Putin invaded Ukraine. Ukraine has oil reserves in Donbass, Crimea. That may be true, but at the same time, I also think it's because of the strategic situation with Russia in the West, as in NATO joining. The United States would be within 200 miles of Volgograd if the U.S. forces were allowed in Ukraine. And so with that, I thank you for the support. Also, a really good point as well that may have been a secondary or the primary factor that led into this war. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And it looks like we have 15 more super chats left until we get to our live chat questions. And up next, we have another $5 super chat from Ultron Prime, who says, I met a Ukrainian refugee today at the mall, and of course, I asked if she had any daily news for her or her family in Ukraine.
Can you reread that one again real quick?
Ultron says, I met a Ukrainian refugee today at the mall, and of course, I asked if she had any daily news for her or her family in Ukraine.
Well, I thank you for the support, and that was a very nice thing of you to do. And surprisingly enough, I have not run into any Ukrainian refugees here in Alabama yet. But it is nice to hear that they are out there somewhere, and that people are being incredibly nice to them, like you've been. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for sharing that little story with us.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Junebug, who says, India should be ashamed for calling Russia a friend when this how Russia treat cows that they worship wasted.
And I thank you for the support, but India has actually detested Russia's actions as of about 3 weeks ago, and so they don't really view them as friends anymore. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment, and thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Ultron Prime once more, who says, P.S. Her face lit up when I told her we've raised $470,000 for Ukraine. Slava Ukraine, and keep it up, boys. Ukraine thanks you more than you'll ever know.
And I got to thank you so much once again for the support, and also bragging about what the Lee Spring Army has done. It's been incredible, and I think that it's something that really ought to be harped on a lot. Now, I think, because here's something weird to me. Try and put this out there. I see people make national headlines about the fundraisers they do, and it'll be like $5,000 or $10,000, and yet the Lee Spring Army can raise almost $500,000 total, and we don't get a single bit of attention for it. I kind of find it a disservice to all of us that no one has gone like, well, look at these people, they're doing an incredibly good job, not just the enforcer, but the whole Lee Spring Army. And I'm kind of like, well, why in the world has no one even brought that up? But anyways, with that, I do thank you for the support. And I'm glad that a lot of people are out there saying what we do and how good it's been, because while that's not really the whole reason we're doing this is for brownie points, it's still good to know that we do get recognition out there somewhere for what we're doing. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
All right. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from OCB, who says, Enforcer Matt, we have the Lee Spring Army. Can we get a Lee Spring Army color guard flying the Honey Badger, since we were on the subject of flags? And OCB, we've been working on that in the background for quite some time. It's just difficult because the provider that we use, which is Teespring, I don't think they do flags by default, I guess you could say. So we kind of have to work with them to make something custom made. So it's a little bit more involved, but we are working on it nonetheless in the background. But Enforcer, what do you think about that?
I think it is a pretty neat idea. We've been thinking about a competition or some kind of pretty much a competition. But we're still trying to figure out how that would work in the background, because I do think it would be cool if our channel did have an actual flag. So with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support, and also a pretty interesting idea. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Billy, Joe, Carl, Bob, Danny, and Frank, the entire family, who says, those prisoner battalions in Russia, yeah, they're putting together the Durl-Wenger Brigade, more or less, to punish the Ukrainian civilians as revenge.
Interesting. And I would also probably agree with that, considering that prisoners, as we've said, are not really desirable people. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Ground Guy Life, who says, how isn't a war crime when Russia tries hacking power grids or anything just with hacking?
That's not necessarily a war crime. I don't know specifically why, but it's not necessarily a war crime to attack electrical grids, but it is unsolicited if it doesn't have a strategic purpose, like the attack at the Test 5 power plant. Considering Russians are being pushed away from Kharkiv, it wouldn't make any sense to blow up a power plant to then cut off Kharkiv from power. It just doesn't. So with that, I hope that addresses the comment in a way. And thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 donation from ZYT, who says, Slava Ukraine.
Also, Slava Ukraini. And thank you so much once again for the support. Also, real quick, I just saw, I'm trying to see something here. Someone said, and I think this was in reference to me, this one was kind of weird. They said I said that Kyiv would last weeks, and I never said that. Ever. So, if you would like, because I think you know who you are, if you would like to say if that was addressed to me or not, I would like to know. So with that, we're going to move on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $5 super chat from Michael Cabrera, who says, please place a do not return to sender sticker on S. Seagull's forehead. Keep him in Russia.
And I agree with that. I'd say he ought to keep it in Russia because he's lost. He's just a lost person. I think that we wouldn't want him here even if he wasn't a pro-Russian and a shill. And so with that, I thank you for the support. I hope that does address the comment. And we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Stefan R., who says, from the mouse, the black cat paid off to run away like a Ruski. Do you think there will be any attempted major gains elsewhere? Not a Russian mouse, I swear. Squeak.
I don't think there will be. Well, can you reread the first part of that again real quick, Matthew?
He says, from the mouse, the black cat paid off to run away like a Ruski. Do you think there will be any attempted major gains elsewhere?
I think there will be, but I don't really want to go into where I think will be next. But with that, I thank you so much for the support, and the Ukrainians will most likely have another counterattack going before the end of this year. And so with that, we're on to the next one, and thank you.
And up next, we have a $5 donation from Angry Penguin, formerly known as AP, who says, want to see something really strange? Look up the flag for our space program's Delta 18 Space Force.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to declare ignorance on that one because I don't know a lot about the Delta 18 Space Force. But with that, I thank you for the support, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, big shout out to Dan for putting in a $4 donation to the channel without a comment. But Dan, thank you very much for the support, and we appreciate you very much. And up next, we have a $5 donation from Richie MC, who says, Enforcer, I come in peace. What is the name of the Ukrainian folk song at the beginning of the stream? I'm asking for a fellow LSA member.
Well, I thank you for the support, Richie MC, and the name of the song is To the Regiment. You can type it in on YouTube, and there should be a couple of songs that are called To the Regiment. They're all the same, though. And so with that, I hope that answers the question. You should be able to find it pretty easily from there. And with that, we are on to the next one. And also, real quick, we're actually going to have to put a cutoff on Super Chats tonight because I see that they keep on coming in. And due to my voice not really being in the best condition, I don't want to run it into the ground. So from here forward, we won't be addressing any Super Chats that are put in. We will be addressing the remainder of them that we have tonight and then addressing the live chats as well. If you would like to put in a Super Chat, just come to tomorrow's stream and put it in first thing, and it'll most likely be one of the first ones answered. And so with that, we are now on to the next one.
All right, and Duncan VR did it. He wasn't going to get the stream out of the way without putting in a super chat with the sheep noises in it. He said he puts in a $5 super chat and says, just for Maddie, ba ba ba, meow meow meow, woof, yeehaw.
And I thank you for the support, Duncan VR, and of course, Matthew is a poor tortured soul. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $3 super chat from Rhonda Murray, who says, thank you for your hard work, and Slava Ukraine.
And thank you very much for the kind words, Ron, and we're going to keep on doing the hard work until this war is done. And so with that, Slava Ukraini, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, big shout out to David Campbell and Homer Lapgard for putting in a $3 donation each, but without a comment. So thank you very much for both of your support. And moving on, we have a $3 super chat from Brad C, who says, Operator Starsky ever thought of doing a Rasputin dance challenge on YouTube?
That's an interesting question. I'll have to ask him that next time he comes here for a fundraiser. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for a pretty interesting idea there.
And up next, we have a $2 super chat from the B Lord, who says, Slava Ukraine from Poland.
And also, Slava Ukraini from the United States. And thank you so much for being a member of the Lee Spring Army and also supporting Ukraine. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And moving right along, we have a $2 super chat from Tim Russell, who says, how long for the 18 against him to fall from Windows?
I see what you're saying now. I think that'll most likely be around a month from now. It can't be immediately. It's got to have a little bit of time so it doesn't look too suspicious, but it'll look suspicious enough. So with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $2 super chat from Ricardo Espina, who says, will the dam going affect pontoons in Kherson?
The dam going will not affect pontoons in Kherson, from what I know, because the Inhales River, specifically the dam that was ruptured, is so far upstream that water will most likely not wash down into the Kherson fast enough to really cause a major issue. And so with that, I hope that answers the question, at least as far as I understand. It could be wrong, so take it with a grain of salt. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and this looks to be our last super chat of the night, which goes to Wojtek CYVR, who puts in a $2 donation and says, Dear Enforcer, please do not take those ignorant comments too serious. Some people are just complaining about everything.
And I thank you for the support, and I think I actually addressed this one a little bit earlier, but people do complain about a lot. Not a lot of people, it's a very small minority, but the problem is that usually the very small minority is almost always the loudest in everything. You know, if you got goofy people, you know, in a group, they're almost always the loudest ones who represent the whole thing. So I do get that, but at the same time, it's incredibly annoying whenever anything's said of anything, you know, anything at all. There's always just someone out there that's going to harass you to the end of time about why I'm wrong or something. It's like, I'm totally fine with being wrong, but I'd like for it to be politely done, instead of sitting there and just complaining until the end of time like their life has been ruined over it. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that addresses that fairly well. And we're now going to move into the live chats. Due to me trying to keep my voice saved for the next day's worth of stream, we are going to answer 10 questions from the live chat. And after we answer those 10 questions, we're going to be rounding out the stream for the night. And so with that, we are on to the first one.
All right, and up first, we have a question from Dylan Duff, who says, yesterday's video, you showed a black and white drone dropping bricks, as you said. Think those could be the new Taiwanese drones.
And it could be. It could be, but we're not entirely sure. But that is a pretty good observation that I didn't think about yesterday. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Richard Daniel Jr., who says, now that Russia targeted that dam, what would happen if they destroyed the dam down in Kherson?
If they destroyed the dam in Kherson, considering it's I guess you could say at the head of such a massive reservoir, that would cause a massive wash downstream, which would most likely take out a decent amount of Nova Kakhovka, flood the entire Kherson Delta, as well as Kherson City itself. It could end up drowning hundreds, if not thousands of people, and causing billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars of property damage. And so with that, I hope that answers the question in a fairly concise way. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Santiago Flores, who says, Enforcer, going to find a breakdown on how many tank kills were credited to the A-10 with the AGM-65 Maverick, not the gun. Cheers.
Well, thank you for the support, and I've got to be honest with y'all, I'm about A-10'd out at this point. I really just want the A-10 thing to end. My opinions are my opinions. I try and base them off of math and statistics, and all I'm talking about is really just the gun. So with that, I hope that addresses the comment fairly well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Steve Hockey, who says, do you think the dam attack had a whole lot to do with it being President Zelensky's hometown?
I don't think so. I think it had a lot more to do with just trying to terrorize the Ukrainian population than anything, because that's not the first time that the Russians have tried to attack something that would inflict, I guess you could say, suffering on thousands of civilians for no reason. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Linda Vickers, who says, with all the war crimes that Russia has and will commit, do you think that they will actually be punished for it at some point?
Can you reread that one again real quick?
Linda says, with all the war crimes that Russia has and will commit, do you think they will actually be punished for it at some point?
Unfortunately, if they continue to exist with the government they have right now, it will not be possible. But if there is a coup, it will be possible to try and hold them accountable. Most likely through the Russian government that'll take charge. And so with that, I hope that answers the question, at least in some way, and take it with a grain of salt. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And next up, we have a question from John Anderson, who says, do you guys think Moldova will retake Transnistria and Georgia, the occupied territory, after Ukraine wins the war?
Can you reread that one again real quick?
John says, do you think Moldova will retake Transnistria and Georgia, the occupied territory, after Ukraine wins the war?
I think they might, but it really depends on what happens at the end of this war. If it's a crushing Russian defeat, then yes. If it's a Russian defeat where there's a white peace and some of their army retains its functionality, then maybe, or maybe not. So with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And with that, we are on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Kellen Hansen, who says, I'm loving the recent Ukrainian victories, but I'm still somewhat hesitant on celebrating too soon. What chances do you give Russia in making successful counteroffensives?
I would give them a chance of about 3 in 10. There will, and I know that's kind of a weird statistic to give out, but if they try a counterattack, I can only see it being successful a lower amount of the time, and it will never be able to regain the initiative across the entire country. They've already lost that ability within the first months of the war, and so it'll be something similar to the Battle of the Bulge. It'll be Russia's last attempt at trying to regain control over the situation. It will throw things into equilibrium for a time, but it won't be permanent, and the Ukrainians will of course overpower them eventually in the future. And so with that, I hope that answers the question in a way, and we are now on to the second to last question of the night.
All right, and this question goes to Karen Vaughn, who says, if the bridges are bombed and out, how are the Russians leaving Ukraine?
If the bridges are bombed and out in the Kherson area, there's really no way for them to leave unless if it was by ferry or swimming across. If it's around the rest of Ukraine, then they'll just be trapped. So I know that's kind of a lame answer, but that's about the best I can explain it. And so with that, we are on to the final question of the night. So who's the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Whitney, who says, do you think areas of Russia will pull away from Russia now that Putin's army is much weaker, some of the oblasts?
Can you reread that one again? I think I had a hard time following it.
Whitney said, do you think areas of Russia will pull away from Russia now that Putin's army is much weaker?
I think that some of the countries like Chechnya and Dagestan may, or Dagestan, however you like to pronounce it. But I can't really see the rest of Russia pulling away, because while the Siberian areas are culturally different, they still heavily rely on Russian tax money to keep them afloat, and I don't think they have any kind of will to become an autonomous region of their own or an independent country. And so, once again, that's my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. But I hope I've answered your question fairly well, and this is the end of tonight's stream. I thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy and you're new to this channel or have not subscribed, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell button. It'll let you know when these streams run, which is every single day of the week at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, except for Mondays, where we cover the past 24 hours of the War of Ukraine every single day. Thank you all so much once again for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover day 205 of the war in Ukraine. And so with that, take care, great night, and I'll see you then.